The villain who rigged the plane to crashes just patched himself into the hero's earpiece to beg her to save it. Then he walks right up to her, broken in the rubble, and admits the truth. Without her, he's nothing but a common villain. Every terror attack, every bomb, every kill was so this one hero could keep walking safely in the light. She hovers past the rooftop ledge and tells him his games are finally, officially finished. High above the quiet city, the rooftop of the central tower becomes a dead end. Hovering just past the ledge, Stardust tells the man below that his games are officially finished. But standing on the concrete, the villain doesn't exactly look cornered. Agostic offers a slow clap, warmly praising her performance and naming her his greatest rival. She isn't here for compliments, snapping back that she doesn't need validation from trash. He throws his arms wide to declare her the one person who always ruins his fun, and the missing piece finally drops for the hero. This is the man who orchestrated everything. It takes one sentence to end the game they've been playing. Agostic tells her she is simply too old to play with anymore, a sudden dismissal that stops Stardust cold. He lifts off the roof, promising he will never cross her path again, and falls backward into the dark with a final goodbye. 22-year-old Kim Dane sits on the ledge of a high-rise, just trying to catch his breath. He stares out at the skyline, admitting it is unmistakably Seoul, even if the weight of the city just leaves him drained. He doesn't know it yet, but this is the last quiet moment he gets. A massive explosion rips through the street directly below, shattering the peace and pulling him right back into the mess. Down on the street, a B-rank villain named Workman treats two local heroes like a light warm-up. Meanwhile, on a nearby roof, Kim Dane secures his mask and studies a skyline that looks absolutely nothing like the Seoul he used to know. The destruction below is just another Tuesday in a reality where criminals tear up the concrete and outmatched heroes scramble to survive. He understands exactly how this world works because he woke up inside the pages of the comic Stardust, and he has already decided to become a villain for one very specific reason. He intends to dedicate every terrible thing he does to the woman on that billboard. Agostic drops onto a nearby rooftop, putting a clean distance between himself and the chaos. His earpiece immediately explodes with Seo Yoon's panic shouting, but he completely brushes her off, casually mentioning he just teleported. For a supposed villain, he treats the entire operation like a weekend stroll, settling onto the ledge for a quick break. His handler demands to know how he can hunt other villains with zero tension. But what do you do when you already know the entire timeline? You rewrite it. Based on his knowledge of the original story, he is systematically eliminating the future threats while they are still weak, clearing the board now so those monsters never get a second chance to torment Stardust. Over the comms, Seo Yoon confirms their target hasn't moved an inch from the sofa, giving them the perfect window. Agostic readies his weapon, eager to test out the new abilities he picked up for exactly this kind of job. He leads with teleportation to slip his gun straight into the apartment. Then he uses psychokinesis to hold the floating barrel right against the A-rank villain's temple. Agostic steps out of the shadows behind him and drops a polite goodbye. The shot fires. With the target down, he pulls a stack of hidden papers out from under the couch. They are department store blueprints, confirming the man was already setting up his next act of terror. The body on the floor belongs to Rhino. In the original timeline, he was destined to become a top-tier villain and massacre hundreds of people. Seo Yoon cuts through the earpiece with a strict 5-minute warning before the authorities arrive. She casually demands ice cream on his way back if he actually appreciates the intel. 5 minutes is plenty of time. Agostic dips a finger into the blood pooling on the floor and drags it across the glass to leave a calling card. He smiles at his own work, knowing it is the perfect gift for the exact hero who is about to walk through that door. The investigator gives Stardust the exact confirmation she asked for. The severed head on the table belongs to the A-rank villain Rhino. He scans the wreck of a room and connects the dots. The brutal method perfectly matches the unknown killer who took out in Zodiac. But there is one more detail he hesitates to bring up. He directs her attention to the window, where a taunt has been smeared across the glass in blood. The killer is calling her out by name. The message lands, and Stardust makes a quiet promise to drag him in no matter the cost. When the news of Rhino's death hits the web, the public reaction isn't horror, it's gratitude. Back at the hideout, Kim Dane is having a complete meltdown over the comment section. He wanted to be a menace, but the internet has decided he's a dark hero doing the dirty work the authorities won't. His shouting finally draws Han Seo-yeon out into the hall, and she demands to know what the crisis is this time. Diane spins around, furious that his public image is actually improving. If people keep thanking him for killing bad guys, it completely ruins his dynamic with the hero who's supposed to be hunting him down. How do you save a failing hero? Diane figures the only real answer is to give the public a monster to hate instead. He decides to take the fall himself, knowing he has to become the absolute worst guy in the room. When he tells Seo-yeon to get ready, she doesn't hide her skepticism, but Diane is already moving. It's time for Agostic's official debut, and he reveals a bag packed with explosives to make sure the entire city pays attention. A sudden broadcast cuts across the city, promising everyone the view they've been waiting for. When the countdown hits zero, the normal programming vanishes. A masked face fills the screens, introducing himself with a cheerful wave as a brand new villain named Agostic. The crowd immediately loses their minds, but the panic is exactly what he wants. He lets them scream before laying out his resume. He claims he took out Rhino and Zodiac, two names that carry enough weight to freeze the street. But the history lesson is just a warm-up, and he quickly shifts the focus to the massive 127 tower sitting right behind him. Across the city, even guys lounging in their living rooms stop fighting with their remotes to stare at the screen. The trap is obvious. Everyone is about to watch it spring. Agostic singles out his second target on the map, pointing straight at the towering 61-building observatory. Down in that exact lobby, the crowd watching the live feed suddenly recognizes the walls around them, just as the masked man cheerfully announces he has rigged both locations to blow. It takes a split second for the truth to land before the panic breaks, sending people rushing toward the exits, only to find the doors completely sealed tight. Even the bystanders watching safely from their couches lock up in shock. But with the city firmly held hostage, Agostic lays out the real point of this broadcast. He demands a proper game, calling out the only person meant to stop him, the A-rank hero, Miss Stardust. He waits on the rooftop, well aware that Stardust is already tearing through the air to shut him down, prompting him to double-check the fit of his suit. The mask goes on, but it can't hide the sudden tremor in his hands. He isn't terrified. He's just a fan on the verge of meeting his idol. Stardust crashes onto the helipad with a massive shockwave, leaving him to stare through the clearing smoke at the hero he's only ever seen in print. The words stumble out of his mouth the second she appears, because staring down Stardust in person makes his pulse hammer in a way screens never could. He takes a long second to measure the hero across the windswept rooftop. A proper villain never lets them see him sweat, so he buries the nerves and anchors his posture. Down in the dark alleys below, the civilians don't have that luxury, scattering in a blind panic to escape the coming fallout. He drags his feet through the rubble of an unfamiliar alley, leaning hard against the cold brick as the physical toll of the drop finally catches up to him. Dane makes a desperate plea to whatever god might be listening to, just send him back to his original world. He inches toward the edge of the wall to check the main street. A single familiar name pulls the breath right out of his lungs. Stardust. A massive holographic billboard lights up the city blocks above him, projecting the face of a fictional hero he knows entirely too well. The impossible truth forces his head up, killing any hope that he just landed in a normal timeline. He is trapped inside a comic book, and he already knows exactly how ugly this world gets. It takes him a second to grasp what he's looking at. The world he woke up in belongs to a story, and the girl on the screen is its star. Stardust. Once upon a time, he had this quiet fantasy that fighting by her side as a hero would be enough to keep her safe. But he knows exactly how this book ends. He's read every page, and the hero's path only ever leads to a ruined city and her complete defeat. If playing by the rules gets her killed, then he'll build an empire out of the people who break them. Dane buries his old life and puts on the hat, stepping into the dark as Agostic. It's a terrible bet, and he takes it anyway, because it's the only way left to save her. Stardust curses his name, her anger boiling over as he calmly admits this was the only path he had left. Agostic takes the verbal hit and swallows the guilt behind his mask. He needs her to hate him, so he leans all the way into the role. When she tries to close the distance, he raises the detonator and barks a final warning. It works, stopping the hero dead in her tracks before she can cross the line. This is a choice you can't walk back from. He promises to become the ultimate villain just for her, holding the trigger up with a smile that says he has nothing left to lose. It is a complete lie, an act perfectly designed to take the fall so she can keep walking safely in the light. At 15, Kim Dane is just a regular kid killing a lazy afternoon on the couch. He watches a superhero broadcast play out on the screen, completely unimpressed by the villain hanging upside down and screaming his lungs out. As the maniac laughs, Dane takes a sip of his drink and decides the guy's whole psycho routine is trying way too hard. Fast forward to the present and the irony lands, because now he is the one wearing the mask, dropping the exact same laugh he used to mock. The laughter grates on Stardust's nerves. She has no choice but to take it, while Agostic eats up the attention, dominating the plaza by using those trapped civilians as his personal shield. It's a flawless trap, and everyone here knows it. Just minutes earlier, he was already setting this exact board. He tuned out the camera drones, dropping the terms before she could even swing. His team held the kill switch for the feed. That single threat forced her to a dead stop. The city's greatest weapon was completely leashed, leaving him free to welcome her to the stage he built for her ruin. Stardust lays out her terms. She offers a surprisingly light beating if he just lets the hostages go, and Agostic plays the cornered villain to perfection. He broadcasts his complete compliance to the cameras. Promising to drop the hack on the observatory elevators, he triggers the release. Down in the trapped cars, the descent systems instantly come back online. It looks like a clean victory, but Stardust already knows he doesn't fold this easily. She's proven right a second later. A terrified hostage reaches for the exit panel, freezing at a sudden shout from the monitor. The rules of the game finally land. Whoever pushes the button lives, and the other tower goes up in flames, so he gives them exactly 30 minutes to make the call. The dilemma is brutal, and he twists the knife by reminding them that everyone in the opposing building is a complete stranger. Dozens of drones hover around the helipad, broadcasting every second of the standoff to the city below. Stardust is completely outplayed, forced to stand by and listen to the man running the show. This is his ultimate stage, a live experiment designed to broadcast the reality of human selfishness. Down inside the observatory, the logic of the setup is already tearing the trapped civilians apart. If they wait, the people across the gap might strike first, forcing a room full of ordinary people to weigh the cost of mass murder against their own survival. The panic in the room boils over as the hostages try to figure out who has to press the button. They scream for their hero to do something, but Stardust is completely stuck. If she moves, a hidden camera ruins everything, but standing here means these people die. Out of options, she demands to know if he actually likes playing games with human lives. Agostic refuses to give her the villain speech she expects. Instead, he uses the moment to loudly praise her A-rank career and perfect morals. The random flattery throws her completely off balance, which is exactly the kind of show he wants to put on for the national broadcast. Agostic looks down at the city's greatest protector, genuinely amused by how completely out of her depth she is. He calls her helplessness inspiring, a line designed specifically to get under her skin. He has no intention of letting her sit this out. He promises to give her a direct line to the panicked civilians, slipping away before she can even process the shift. The actual stakes of the night finally drop. If Stardust can somehow convince both sides to hold their nerve and ignore the detonators for 30 minutes, he promises the bombs won't go off. Stardust hates the idea of putting her faith in a known villain, but Agostic points out the obvious. It beats waiting around for the end. She swallows her anger and accepts the deal. With the argument settled, he snaps his fingers to cue the production crew. A second later, the feed goes live. Her face flashes across every major screen in the district, catching the eyes of a crowd desperate for a lifeline. She takes a breath and figures out exactly what she needs to say. Across the city, every screen flickers to life as Stardust takes control of the broadcast. Her voice is steady enough to pull the panicked crowds back from the edge. Watching from a distance, Agostic feels the weight of the last few hours finally lift. This was the whole point. He built himself up as the ultimate threat, drawing every camera and terrified eye in the city, strictly so she could step in and shine this brightly. He built the stage, and she doesn't waste a single second of it, rallying the citizens to show their new villain exactly what they are made of. Up in the shadows, Agostic lets the silence stretch, thoroughly enjoying the shape of the drama he just authored. Down in the square, the digital clock hits 5 seconds, forcing Stardust to brace for a failure she can't stop. The hostages huddle together against the glass, muttering useless prayers as the display bleeds down to 3. 2 seconds left, and she has 0 options remaining. This is the part where the tension finally snaps. The timer bottoms out at 0, dropping a massive pink pillar of energy straight through the observatory roof as a mother clutches her child, shutting her eyes against a blast that by all logic should instantly wipe them out. Inside, the hostages just hold on to each other, fully prepared to die rather than push the button. Up on the roof, Agostic freezes. What do you do when your whole philosophy relies on people being terrible and they refuse to play along? Stardust watches the quiet play out, stunned that not a single person down there rushed to save their own skin, and the silence breaks Agostic. He grabs his head. It makes no sense. Surely at least one person in that room should have been as selfish as him. He leans over the edge, demanding to know why, but Stardust answers him straight. The world isn't as ugly as he wants it to be. It finally clicks for him that the hostages only held their ground because Stardust gave them a reason to, and he actually finds the stubbornness amusing. He tosses out a promise for a rematch just as she launches herself across the roof to shut him down, but his escape is already in motion. He takes note of her blind dedication to justice and fades out right before her fist connects. By the time she lands, the rooftop is empty. She actually won. Down in the streets below, the city erupts to chant her name. He might be gone for now, but this is just the start of the headache he intends to cause. Stardust is left staring at empty air, shook by how fast he vanished, but the reality of that smooth exit is a lot less glamorous. Cursing out loud as the full weight of the pain drops on him. This is the catch to his teleportation ability. His body takes direct damage based on how far he jumps. He groans that he's out of action for at least a couple of days. Seo-yoon stands over his crippled state and offers exactly zero sympathy, mostly just annoyed that he chose to wear the hat. Back at the hideout, the Grand Mastermind is currently begging for a single glass of water, while Han Seo-yoon critiques his third-rate performance. She tells him to crawl for it and walks away, leaving him stranded. How is the city processing his debut? High above the streets, Stardust watches the news broadcasts of families reuniting. The disgust finally boils over. A man who toys with people's emotions has to be stopped, and she vows to bring him in herself. The terrifying nemesis she just swore to destroy is currently flat on his back, being drip-fed water by the sidekick who just told him to crawl. At the Korean Hero Association headquarters, the media narrative is officially spiraling out of control. The executive board pulls up the latest analysis on the man responsible for the chaos, and Association President Park calls the room to order. But the moment the presentation rolls to their top hero lying unconscious on the floor, Park snaps at the attendant to skip ahead. He refuses to sit through that humiliation again. Moving straight to the incident itself, the staff confirms exactly how the villain bypassed their defenses. He teleported custom-made, high-yield bombs directly onto the observation deck's exterior, proving he can place a catastrophic threat wherever he wants without taking a single step. Park rubs his temples as the headache sets in. The briefing gives him nothing useful, with zero clues on how their security was completely bypassed to hijack the broadcast. The only working theory is an expert accomplice, someone staying in the shadows to handle the tech and build the bombs. But the investigator braces himself before dropping the real problem. The bomber is entirely obsessed with Stardust. Between the bloody message left at the murder scene and his direct call-out today, the threat is obvious. He has his sights locked firmly on the hero defending Seoul. Park turns to the only person in the room who actually faced him, needing to know exactly what kind of man they are about to hunt. The debrief starts with a single prompt for Stardust. She lays out her official assessment without blinking, classifying their new target as a manipulative psychopath fully capable of orchestrating a large-scale terrorist attack. As far as the heroes are concerned, they are dealing with a cold-blooded mastermind. Meanwhile, 2 days later, that same mastermind is buried under his covers, groaning that he's about to die. The quiet morning ends the second Han Seo-in catches Diane drinking straight from the fridge bottle, and his panicked attempt to lie about using a cup completely fails against her glare. It's hard to take her seriously when she complains about chores, but Diane knows exactly who he's dealing with. In the original storyline, this genius hacker grows up to become a terrifying S-rank villain. As it turns out, the future terror of the world is currently just a cranky roommate. She reminds him that they are standing in her underground base, shutting down his excuse about paying the bills with the firm demand to respect her space. He doesn't even bother arguing. He drops a hand on her head and agrees to behave, throwing her off balance until she remembers the real reason she came out here. They have a situation. Seo-yoon drags him through the halls with zero explanation, pushing straight into the control room. A massive hostage crisis is unfolding in Incheon. A group of copycats calling themselves Agostic's followers have wired a building with explosives. Diane naturally assumes their recruit got caught in the crossfire as a victim. This is where the whole picture flips. The broadcast confirms 300 hostages are trapped inside the building, so Diane asks Seo-yoon to recite their one defining rule: never kill civilians. The reminder is the only thing keeping his simmering rage in check right now. He has no intention of breaking that code today, but he absolutely refuses to let the bastards holding those people walk away breathing. He asks if she's ready to help him clean them out. She gives him a firm nod, already locked in for the fight. As for the masked woman they just recruited, Diane decides to wait and see. He wants to watch how she handles herself in the field before he hands over his trust. This is the part where it gets ugly. Miles away, Stardust stands on a neighboring rooftop, watching the smoke pour from the shattered glass as the crisis officially spirals out of control. Stardust readies herself and calls command for the green light. She waits above the city while the police try one last negotiation, but when the order finally comes through, it is final. Permission to engage, and a kill order. But before she can move, a new name hits the comms and stops her cold. Agostic. What is a guy like that doing here? It used to be simple. Villains relied on raw power to terrorize the city, taking the fight straight to the streets. But Agostic changed the game, skipping the head-on brawls and using explosives and hijacked broadcasts to back heroes into a corner instead. His methods are built to turn the public against the association, and the worst part is that it is already working. This entire standoff today is just some copycat trying to follow his lead. Then Command drops the real problem in her ear. Agostic isn't just on the scene, he is broadcasting the whole thing live on the internet right now. She pulls up the stream to find him front and center, with thousands of people already watching. This is the part where it gets ugly. The entire internet is watching this play out in real time, with half the chat assuming Agostic just hijacked the broadcast to show off his own terror attack. But the guys actually holding the rifles didn't plan for company, and it takes them a second to process the man in the top hat. The moment it clicks, the gunmen completely lose their minds, genuinely believing their idol came all this way just to help them execute the hostages. The reality is less glorious. The long-distance teleport nearly wrecked his body, and he is swallowing a massive amount of pain just to stand upright. He lets the silence stretch long enough that the fanatics start to sweat, until he finally breaks and bursts into laughter. You can't write a better punchline. They actually thought he was on their side. Seo-yun feeds him the intel over the earpiece. The guy by the pillar holds the detonator, and he locks on. That instantly establishes who actually controls this room. The terrorist leader panics, screaming to his men that this intruder is a disguised police lackey. The entire squad of imposters immediately answers by aiming their rifles right at him. They still think a firing squad matters here. The leader stammers in confusion as his massive gun simply floats out of his grip, followed immediately by every other weapon in the hallway, locking open in midair. With the threat entirely neutralized, our protagonist drops the act to deliver a cold verdict. He has never had followers this stupid. The shockwave tears through the sky, leaving the observatory as a smoking ruin. Meanwhile, the association finally gives Stardust the green light, ordering her to prioritize the hostages above everything else. She launches into the sky. Back inside the hallway, one last masked figure cowers under the barrel of a floating rifle. But before a shot fires, Seo-yun's voice cuts through his earpiece to confirm the actual stakes. This girl is innocent. She was dragged into this mess against her will, and now she can only sob for mercy as he walks toward her. Agostic decides to drop the act entirely. He tosses his mask aside so the imposter has to look him in the eye when he demands an answer. Did she mess up? Lee Soo-bin folds, breaking into a fit of terrified tears. This is the part where it looks like a nightmare for the hostages watching in silence. They brace for a murder, which is exactly what Agostic wants them to expect. He leans perfectly into the role, flashing a bright smile as he promises to shoot her if she cries again. The blunt threat works instantly, choking off her sobs, and he steps forward to finish his point. Agostic addresses the camera, publicly taking full responsibility for a copycat attack he didn't even commit, and then goes a step further, stunning the captive room by promising direct cash payouts to every hostage and the victims' families. How often does a masked criminal actually pay out damages? Moving that much money leaves a massive digital trail, but he brushes the risk aside, fully trusting his hacker to clean up the mess. Over the comms, Seo-in just sounds completely over it, ordering him to grab the target and leave, a cue he cheerfully takes. He snatches up the copycat despite her panicked shrieks. The physical toll of his teleportation hits him immediately, nearly buckling his knees, but he forces the ability to fire anyway, blasting them both out of the building. Agostic freezes mid-step, the hero's name slipping out before he can catch it. He didn't plan for her to show up here, and Stardust isn't slowing down to talk, closing the gap in a dead sprint to tear his whole operation apart. Outside a quiet coffee shop, the world is waking up to a media firestorm. The morning headlines are breaking the brains of every news anchor in the city because the footage of a terrorist formally apologizing to his hostage just leaked. The one person not enjoying the show is Shin Haru, scrolling through the fallout from a corner table. The comment sections aren't calling for his arrest. Instead, they are flooded with people praising his vibe and trying to give him a nickname. The headache sets in immediately. Stardust is supposed to be the symbol of hope, but this masked guy just bought the public's loyalty out from under her. The explosion tears through the building, giving Agostic the perfect cover to drop out of the smoke. But Stardust refuses to let him walk away this time. She lunges straight through the debris to make the grab, only for him to slip out of reach at the very last second. The miss stings, and she lands entirely empty-handed. A few hours later at the university cafe, Shin Haru is still chewing on the loss when her friend So Young stops by to ask if a homework assignment is stressing her out. If only her problems were that normal. The voice of her senior cuts through the quiet, so Shin Haru waves the distraction off as a quick daydream and drops her focus right back into her notebook. Spacing out is a rare luxury when you secretly work as Korea's top hero, Stardust. She relies on a perception filter to blur her identity, letting her blend in as a normal college student, even if she still turns a few heads in the cafe. But right now, she isn't thinking about her classes. She has one specific villain living rent-free in her head, muttering his name under her breath. She presses her pen hard into the paper to circle the word, reminding herself that people are driven by their own greed. That should be the end of it. But the memory of his dark shadow breaks her logic completely, and the math just won't add up. If he really is a selfish monster, why did he go out of his way to save those hostages? Back at the table, Shin Haru is a million miles away until Kim Chae-hyun calls her out, offering to drop their assignment for a bowl of mango bingsu instead. The bribe almost works, but before she can agree, that familiar laugh rings in her ears. Just the memory of Agostic ruins her appetite. She shouts that not even her favorite dessert can fix this mess. She grips her pen hard enough to snap the plastic while mourning the lost fruit. The villain lives rent-free in her head right now. He has invaded her thoughts so deeply she is mixing up his name with the dessert, and she is officially done letting him win. Haru is still making angry promises about catching and unmasking her target, but her senior just feeds her and finds the whole outburst cute. As it turns out, Chae-yoon has her own secrets to keep. She heads back to a perfectly normal-looking house in Seoul, but the illusion drops the second she steps inside, revealing a heavy security door hidden right behind the entrance. The entry sequence clears, granting the woman access to a secure lift and a long ride down into the bunker. Deep inside the facility, Dan has decided to officially christen their hideout the Ego Base. It's a bold choice, mainly because Seo-yoon is sitting right there and he's effectively claiming her house. He tries to talk his way out of the presumption by arguing that what's hers is his, a defense she immediately shuts down. Unwilling to take the loss, he pushes his luck to assert dominance, an arrogant move that instantly rewards him with a blinding leg cramp. Her sympathy is entirely non-existent. She leaves him to scream it out, flatly advising him to stop whining and just take his rest. Groaning inside the recovery pod, Kim Dae-in feels the full toll of moving another person through space, though securing a transcendent intelligence user like Han Seo-yoon makes the strain entirely worth it. Across the room, the genius in question flips through a book, just trying to find her page. The capsule quickly washes away his physical exhaustion, leaving Dae-in to decide this machine is the single greatest invention on Earth. His sudden thumbs up interrupts the quiet, earning him a flat glare from Seo-yoon as she demands to know what he wants. The standoff breaks when Shin Haru walks through the door, clutching a bag and offering a casual excuse about a grocery run. Haru returns to the safe house with a plastic bag in hand, pointing out that their fridge was cleaned out. She offers Dae-in a snack like it's a perfectly normal afternoon, glossing over the fact that she's an active fugitive. Her only defense is that she pulled her hair down to cover her eyes, which makes him point out that creeping around like a ghost just draws more attention. None of this bothers little Seo-yoon, who happily claims an ice cream bar from the grocery haul. Watching the kid unwrap her treat, Dae-in starts to wonder if this whole setup was just an excuse to get a delivery girl. He finally asks Haru the real reason she wanted the kid brought here. The older woman doesn't even blink before casually admitting she actually needs Seo-yoon for a job. He already knows whatever she's planning is going to be a massive headache. Dae-in wants no part of this setup, warning Seo-yoon that keeping a live threat in their space is a bad bet. He's genuinely worried she might snap and shoot the place up, but Seo-yoon isn't sweating it. She points out the girl never wanted any part in the violence. Dae-in's own crew dragged her into the mess. This is the part where it gets uncomfortable. Brushing past him, Seo-yoon casually drops the hostage's real name, freezing Lee Soo-bin in her tracks. The panic hits the young woman instantly as the darkest corner of her life is dragged into the open. Stepping closer, Seo-yoon reveals she's been reading her deep web posts, slipping right past the weak security blockers, before offering the only thing a grieving daughter actually wants, a chance at revenge. Seo-yoon backs her into a corner, laying out exactly what Soo-bin wrote about doing to the corporation that ruined her parents. But the kid isn't here to judge her. She lays her own grudge on the table, admitting her vendetta against the Hanyun leaders and asking for an alliance to crush them. From the sidelines, Dae-in connects the dots. The shared trauma makes perfect sense, since the promise of revenge against those exact corporate suits was the only reason he managed to recruit the kid in the first place. He searches his memory of the original timeline. Nothing. She must be a harmless extra, and he debates whether she brings any actual value to his operation. That cold logic crashes the second the two girls break down into a crying hug. Dae-in has absolutely no idea what is happening right now, watching the two of them wail each other's names like they've been separated for a lifetime. The tough guy act Seo-yoon has been putting on all this time completely melts away the second she gets her hands on Soo-bin, and it takes him a second to figure out his best move here. He just needs to sit quietly in his pod and let them get it out of their system. The atmosphere inside the restaurant has completely soured, the murmurs of the other patrons barely masking a quiet sobbing. Soo-bin sits frozen at her table, begging to know why the man across from her is putting her through this. What do you even say to someone like this? The guy genuinely believes he's the injured party here, complaining that her distress is ruining his meal and demanding to know why his attention is such a crime. But before he can twist the situation any further, the front doors swing open. The police just walked in to answer an assault report, and they expect him at the station right now. In the ruins of a shattered skyline, the White Witch poses the kind of question that usually ends an era, asking if her death will actually fix this broken world. She screams her target's name, and Stardust screams right back, bracing for the clash that will decide everything. At least, that's how the grand S-rank villain operates on the clock. Back at the apartment, 16-year-old Han Seo-yoon's absolute worst nightmare is an empty bottle of orange juice. She corners her roommate, fully prepared to commit a murder over the missing breakfast drink. Lee Soo-bin rushes in to stop the homicide. She frantically confesses to finishing the juice herself, promising to buy a fresh bottle immediately. As it turns out, world-ending fury has a very simple off switch: the promise of groceries. The crisis is officially over, and Seo-in takes full advantage of the moment, throwing her arms around a deeply relieved Soo-bin. Dain watches the display from across the room, swallowing a wave of second-hand embarrassment. He decides to ruin the mood, asking if she's finally done pretending to be a boy. That earns him a barrage of frantic protests ringing out over the neighborhood, which only makes him laugh harder. But the quiet moments never last. Down in the command center, Dain watches his team settle back into their elements. He keeps his focus on Seo-in, quietly taking stock of her superintelligence. But what actually defines her is the nightmare she outlived. She is the only breathing survivor of the Hanium Group's illegal experiments, the lone success out of hundreds of children forced into the Gaewa project. The facility didn't know what it had until the day one of their young subjects finally lost control. A massive pillar of light wipes out the entire building and everyone involved, leaving only a badly injured Seo-in to crawl from the rubble. She drags herself away from the ruins. She eventually finds an abandoned basement to build a quiet life out of sight. For years, she manages to stay completely off the grid behind a wall of monitors. She scrambles back in panic, but Dain didn't come to hurt her. He needs her skills, and he knows exactly what to offer in return: a chance to hunt down the men who did this to her. Seo-in backs away, clutching a metal fork as if it could actually protect her. Dain offers an open hand. He promises he means no harm, telling her flat out that he came to save her life. He knows exactly what happens if he doesn't. In the original timeline, that scared girl turns into an S-rank villain and dies for it. Dain refuses to let that happen. He decides to guide her the right way, even if bringing her into his crew is a messy start. Back at the monitor, she waves him off, convinced he wouldn't understand a single thing on her screen. Dain lets the attitude slide. His mind is already shifting to Lee Soo-bin, an orphan who fought her way into a top school purely by studying on her own. With her engineering background, he sees the whole picture coming together, knowing Soo-bin is the perfect choice to back up Seo-yun's hacking. Dain watches the new recruit from across the room. She never existed in the original story, which makes her a dangerous unknown, but her cooking is good enough that he's willing to overlook it. A moment later, Seo-yun breaks his focus to show off her latest invention, a tiny mechanical spider designed as a tracking sensor. When Dain asks why they need it, he gets a quick lecture on their actual mission. She pulls up their next target on the monitor, and Dain immediately questions the choice. Kim Hak-chul is an A-rank teleporter. This is the part where the whole plan hits a wall. The target can jump short distances endlessly without burning any stamina, meaning psychokinesis won't even lock him down. Seo-yun simply points out that the worst enemies need to die first, and she ignores Dain's complaints about how his own teleports leave his body in physical agony. It's a quiet afternoon on a residential street, but the real tension is living on the comms channel. Crouched on a nearby roof, Agostic hesitates, asking his handler if they're really doing this now, and Seo-yun's answer is immediate. He should have gone in 5 minutes ago. Back at base, she sighs as he tries to stall, clearly nervous about teleporting directly into the target's living room. She spells the logic out for him one more time. Just fire the location tracker the second he pulls the trigger, because even if the mark dodges the bullet by teleporting, the tracker will hit. Staring at the heavy gun in his hands, Agostic asks how that's even physically possible. It's a fair question, and it earns him a brutal answer. She made the tracker faster than a bullet, and since he was a liberal arts major, he wouldn't understand the math anyway. He tries one last angle, suggesting they just take the guy out on the street, which finally pushes her over the edge. The target only ever teleports, meaning he never walks anywhere. The frustration leaves Seo-yun chugging a massive bottle of water to cool off, while Soo-bin just sits there watching the meltdown. Soo-bin plays her part as the loudest supporter in the room, leaving a tired Seo-yun to just sigh and wait out the noise, but Agostic takes the encouragement and gives the word to move. A second later, he drops straight into the target's apartment, appearing in the entryway just as Kim Hak-chul dries his hair. The A-rank villain locks up, his brain failing to grasp how anyone could bypass his security. Hak-chul is used to being the one who ambushes people, but tonight he is on the wrong end of the door. He never even gets a chance to shout before Agostic pulls both triggers, sending a bullet and a mechanical bug tearing across the floor. The strike misses clean, forcing him to bank on a backup plan. He radios Seo-yun to check if the tracker at least caught hold. Back at the command center, she confirms the hit, pulling the live coordinates from Soo-bin. The target is half a kilometer east, so our lead launches straight back into the air. It's a fast redeployment, but the pursuit drops him right into the middle of a crowded downtown intersection. The operation just went completely sideways. Every phone in a 10-foot radius snaps up to record him, flooding the internet with live updates of the city's most notorious villain caught standing in traffic. It is just another quiet afternoon at Yonsei University. Shinharu is doing her best to blend in and survive the lecture. But the piece gets cut short. The second association command patches through to her earpiece with an emergency dispatch. Agostic is back. The villain's name alone makes her completely forget she is sitting in a crowded room. She scrambles to gather her bags and push her way down the row. Her friend So Young gets zero explanation as Haru bolts for the door. A minute later, she throws herself off the campus roof, already trying to calculate exactly what kind of game her rival is playing this time. Seo Yoon crackles over the comms to guide Agostic toward the crosswalk up ahead, where he spots Kim Dane stumbling through the street and confirms the intel. Someone actually managed to land a shot on the guy. Late at night on an empty bridge, a quiet run from the mob comes to an end. 5 enforcers lean over the railing, calling down to Kim Hak-chul. They ask if he enjoyed taking their money, soaking in the leverage before they finally collect the debt. A desperate promise rings out in the dark, coming from a man hanging over the water with heavy iron plates strapped to his waist. He begs for mercy, swearing he'll get the cash, but the enforcer finishing his cigarette has already made the call. They don't need his money anymore. Some ledgers are only cleared one way. The suit steps forward and presses the burning ash straight into the taut rope. The man screams a final, useless apology right as the fibers give way. The scream echoes off the concrete as the man plunges toward the dark water. He only has a few seconds left, and there is no dramatic rescue waiting for him at the bottom. It is a guaranteed death sentence, driven home by the heavy iron strap to his back. As the surface rushes up to meet him, the panic finally burns out, leaving nothing but hate. He pulls in one last breath, but a sudden flash rips across the bridge and drops Hak-chul right back where he started. The men who chased him to the edge lock up. They just watched the guy fall to his death, and now he is standing right behind them. To be fair, Hak-chul is just as lost. The strange energy fading from his hands makes no sense, but it just gave him a second chance. Hak-chul throws his overconfidence out for the whole bridge to hear, vanishing before anyone can land a hand on him. He drops back down near the city intersection, putting some much-needed distance between himself and the fight. Down below, a truck driver screams as Agostic flashes straight out of the moving cab, forcing Hak-chul to swallow his frustration. He had the timing down perfectly, and his target still slipped the snare. He touches down on a nearby roof, clutching his side as the real stakes finally land. He thought the man in the suit only took out those other two villains over a private beef, but the truth is much worse. He is dealing with Agostic, and he is the one being hunted. Hak-chul stumbles back, throwing out a desperate lie that none of this is his fault. But Agostic completely ignores the excuse, branding the man an A-class teleporter and sentencing him to hell. It takes a second, but the math finally clicks for the bleeding man. The rumors are actually true, and this psycho really does exclusively hunt other villains. This is the part where it gets public. Stepping up to the ledge, Agostic cheerfully announces that it is time to take out the trash. A second later, he drags his catch straight down into a crowded city plaza, showing off the prize while the cornered teleporter screams a useless curse. Subin is already losing her mind, desperate to get the villain's voice out of her head, when Hak-chul suddenly gets launched backward and pulls her right into the collateral damage. She braces for a cracked skull, but a gloved hand catches her perfectly. The panic instantly melts into a blush as her supposed tormentor swoops in to play the dashing hero. A few feet away, Hak-chul bleeds onto the tiles, the fight completely drained out of him. Out of everyone in the city, why him? He stares at the concrete, fully aware that his time at the top just ended right here in the dirt. Kim Hak-chul hits the pavement in the middle of a crowded plaza, completely exposed. A voice rings out above him, broadcasting his true identity to the stunned crowd, an A-class villain teleporter. Agostic stands over him with a gun to the back of his head, demanding that his crimes finally be brought to light. The trap is closed, and everyone in the square can see it. Kim Hak-chul curses under his breath, pointing out that his attacker is a villain too. Agostic just smiles. He might wear a mask, but he knows exactly where the line is, and he isn't the one who crossed it. Summary: story_beats. Key_beats. Characters_introduced. Characters_developed. Power_moments. Emotional_beats. Shinharu crying in despair over her parents' bodies. System_events. Character_map. Stardust. Description: a female hero with long blonde hair, seen descending from the sky in a red and black suit. Appeared in panels. Agostic. Description: black top hat, black suit and cape, red tie, white mask covering right eye, seen performing a broadcast and teleporting. Also appears as a chibi icon on his own HUD. Appeared in panels. Kim Dane. Description: short messy black hair, wearing a white hoodie under a dark jacket, shown offering his hand and later reflecting on the future while drinking from a red mug. appeared underscore in underscore panels. Workman. Description. Muscular man, short green hair, gray suit, pink tie with pig patterns, B-rank villain. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Hunch. Description. Female hero, black hair and pigtails, red and white martial arts hero suit. C-rank hero. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Kick. Description. Male hero, brown hair, blue hero suit, white bandages on hands and feet, C-rank hero. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Seoyun. Description. Voice on comms, addressed as Hyung by Egustic, likely his female associate. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Hirino. Description. Gray hair with a pointed front, wearing a white tank top and blue pants, identified as an A-rank villain. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Investigator. Description. Short dark hair, blue ID lanyard, white undershirt under a blue jacket, male investigator or assistant. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Han Seoyun. Description. Short white hair, purple eyes, seen both in a civilian look with a blue oversized hoodie and black shorts, and as the White Witch, an S-rank villain, wearing a purple combat suit with massive purple 2026. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Passersby. Description. A crowd of unnamed civilians in modern clothing, seen watching and recording Egustic with their phones. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Villains. Description. Silhouetted associates of Egustic, including a woman with a ponytail and a figure in a hood. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Passerby. Description. Unnamed citizens in a dark alleyway, fleeing in panic, including a man in a green striped sweater and a woman with short dark hair. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Hostages. Description. Unnamed civilians inside the observatory, including a woman with brown hair and a white shirt and a man in a light blue hoodie. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Hostage. Description. Unnamed civilians trapped inside the observatory, including a woman in an orange cardigan and a man in a green vest, appearing in a state of extreme panic. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Citizens. Description. Unnamed citizens in the city watching the broadcast, including children, parents, and an elderly man in a wheelchair. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Park Jun-ho. Description. Balding male with glasses wearing a dark gray suit and blue tie, president of the Korean Hero Association. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Attendant. Description. Unnamed male staff member in a dark suit, seen operating a laptop during the briefing. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Staff. Description. Unnamed association members in dark suits, including a woman with brown hair in a ponytail and a man with gray hair, attending the briefing. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Lee Soo-bin. Description. Young woman with long dark brown hair and brown eyes, wearing an orange cardigan over a white top, previously seen as a terrified hostage in a news broadcast. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Egostic's followers. Description. A group of terrorists dressed in suits, top hats, and masks to mimic Egostic's appearance. They are seen holding rifles and guarding hostages. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. News broadcast. Description. A news report being watched by the characters, providing information via on-screen text boxes. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Association command. Description. Voice heard through Stardust's earpiece. Provides orders and tactical updates to heroes. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Electro. Description. A hero with a blue and white suit, wearing a helmet with a visor, crackling with electricity, seen in a flashback. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Terrorist leader. Description. A follower of Egostic wearing the standard top hat and mask uniform, but more vocal and commanding, has dark hair under his hat. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Shin Haru. Description. Stardust civilian identity, long blonde hair tied in a ponytail, wearing a blue and white varsity jacket over a white turtleneck, student at Yonhee University. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. So Young. Description. Long wavy brown hair, wearing a light blue long-sleeve shirt and carrying a brown handbag. Haru's friend at university. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Kim Chae-hyun. Description. Long brown hair, light blue cardigan over a white top, tan skirt. Haru's senior at university. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Hanyeon leaders. Description. Faceless figures in suits and lab coats appearing in a flashback, representing the antagonistic corporate entity. appeared _in_ panels. Police officer. Description: male officer with short dark hair, wearing a dark blue uniform with a belt. Appeared _in_ panels. Harasser. Description: man with wavy lilac gray hair, wearing a white shirt and a green tie. Appeared _in_ panels. Kim Hak-chul. Description: man with wavy lilac gray hair, wearing a white shirt, green tie, and a black vest, identified as an A-rank villain and teleporter, previously referred to as harasser. Appeared _in_ panels. Home test subjects. Description: a group of unnamed children wearing matching hospital gowns, sitting on the floor in a dark room during a flashback. Appeared _in_ panels. Thugs. Description: a group of 5 men in suits, some with visible scars or smoking cigarettes, acting as enforcers for a criminal group. Appeared _in_ panels. Thugs. Description: a group of 5 men in suits, some with visible scars or smoking cigarettes, acting as enforcers for a criminal group. Appeared _in_ panels. Debt-ridden man. Description: man with wavy lilac gray hair, wearing a white shirt and blue tie, seen hanging upside down and tied up with heavy weights. Appeared _in_ panels. Bald thug. Description: a muscular bald man in a light gray suit, one of the thugs chasing Kim Hak-chul. Appeared _in_ panels. Truck driver. Description: middle-aged man with brown hair, wearing an orange safety vest over a dark gray shirt, seen reacting with shock from his vehicle. Appeared _in_ panels. Killer. Description: a man in a black hooded jacket over a gray shirt, holding a handgun and a black notebook while smoking a cigarette in the rain. Appeared _in_ panels. Shin Haru, young. Description: age 17, brown hair, wearing a blue school vest over a white long-sleeve shirt and a striped tie, seen crying over her fallen parents. Appeared _in_ panels. Filler _panels. Visual _focus. Up on the canyon ridge, Agostic treats the disaster like a broadcast. He announces the incoming train to his audience, turning a lethal situation into a twisted game show where the only prize is guilt. Down on the tracks, Stardust freezes, trapped by the exact sense of justice that makes her a hero. It's a terrible bet, and she takes it. She swallows her hesitation and tears off the starting line to force an impossible save. Watching from above, Agostic tips his hat, perfectly content to let the trap close. Her own predictable desperation is doing the work for him. He hauls his terrified captive down to the tracks, dropping her flat across the steel. He mutters a quiet complaint to himself as he secures the bindings. If it wasn't for that vigilante shadow walker forcing his hand, he could have handled this comfortably at night. Instead, he's stuck setting traps in broad daylight, pulling the final knot tight. With the heavy lifting done, he relocates to a cliffside overlook to check the arrangement. He stares down at the hostages spread across the intersecting rails, actually quite proud of how his classic trolley problem turned out. It looks cruel, but there is a twisted logic to all of this. In the original timeline, Stardust built her strength by constantly grinding through these low-level villains. If he just quietly wiped them out to keep her safe, he'd rob her of the very experience she needs to survive what's coming. The villain act has to continue, and he taps the dirt to signal the start. Agostic settles in to watch his work, framing this entire trap as a custom training ground built just for her. But when she dives straight toward the tracks, his act breaks into a panicked scream, begging her to stop before she throws her life away. What do you do when the hero you're trying to push decides to just die instead? The live stream watches him lose his mind, and for a split second, the truth catches up to him. This isn't the script he wrote. Then the mask slips back on. He forces a smile, pivoting hard to claim this was his plan all along. Down on the tracks, the collision sends a massive shockwave tearing through the valley. Standing on the cliff edge, Agostic lays out the secret behind her power. As an A-rank hero, stopping a train should be impossible, but her true strength only unlocks when her back is against the wall. He watches from above, perfectly calm, knowing she has the raw power to stop a train this size. The massive machine grinds against her, forcing the hero to her absolute limit. But then the math suddenly breaks. The engine isn't slowing down, it's getting faster. Back in the control room, the Reason Why is sprawled out over the console, completely dazed while he screams through the radio. This was never part of the plan. If even one hostage dies here, the guilt will break Stardust completely, sending her straight into the dark future he just risked everything to prevent. Stardust throws everything she has left into the push, screaming as she tries to force a miracle. Watching from the sidelines, Agostic braces against the wind and does the last thing a mastermind should do. He privately begs the hero to hold on. If her strength breaks now, the train will plow straight through those tied-up hostages, and his careful game ends in a bloodbath, as the massive train slams into the dirt in a heavy cloud of dust. A second later, the tension breaks. She actually stopped it. The mass death outcome is officially off the table, and Agostic settles his tie, calling for Stardust to finally step into the open. When the anchor pitches a softball question about the mysterious message, reporter Park plays it cool for exactly 1 second before snapping and pointing a finger across the desk. He refuses to read the text as a simple calling card, insisting instead that it is a deeply personal gift meant only for the heroine. He pulls up the reference photo to prove his point. A shot of the villain kneeling over a battered Stardust, respectfully covering her eyes and conceding the match. To anyone else, it is a quiet moment of respect between rivals, but Park screams to the entire studio that this is irrefutable proof of a tragic romance, spinning the villain's final gesture as an act of pure love. Shinharu stares at her phone, reading the worst take the internet has produced yet. The public actually thinks she's dating him. She sits alone in the empty lecture hall, gripping her head to fight off the absurdity of being linked to a lunatic villain. But the denial isn't as clean as it should be. The hatred and disgust are exactly where they belong. The problem is the strange, quiet pull buried underneath all that anger, a feeling she can't even name, and one she refuses to look at. She groans and slumps forward onto the desk, just as footsteps stop beside her. It's Kim Chae-hyun, a senior from her program, who sees the exhausted girl and blames the heavy university workload. Flashing a bright smile, Chae-hyun holds out a sweet distraction to heal her tired mind. She catches Haru by the hands and tells her to just trust her today, completely unaware of the actual crisis spinning in her junior's head. Back at the hideout, the infamous White Witch is currently thrashing on the floor like a toddler, arguing that pulling off 2 acts of terrorism absolutely earns her a day off. Dane decides to cave and suggests a group outing, instantly turning her complaints into a victory cheer. He checks a flyer for an upcoming ice cream festival, noting that a relaxing day trip wasn't part of the original plotline, but he figures it's harmless. After all, what could possibly go wrong? Across town, Shinharu happens to be looking at that exact same flyer. She just wants one quiet afternoon to enjoy herself. The collision is already set, and neither of them sees it coming. Even for a weekday afternoon, the festival grounds are packed. Seo-yoon immediately calls Diane out for wearing all black again, forcing him to defend his wardrobe as a uniquely masculine aesthetic. It draws a genuine laugh out of her, catching him completely off guard. The bright smile and the casual use of his title mark a massive shift. This is exactly what they came here for. He lets himself relax as she locks onto a nearby dessert stall and practically sprints ahead to get in line. Diane checks in with Subin, and they both agree. Getting her out of the house was the right play. Diane takes a quick taste of the dessert, and Seo-yoon is already sold on the flavor. Thinking nothing of it, he scoops another bite and offers it to Subin. She locks up on the spot. Seo-yoon eagerly nudges her to try it, so Subin stammers out a panicked refusal. The logic is spinning entirely out of her control. If she takes that exact spoon, it definitely counts as an indirect kiss. Seo-yoon doesn't hesitate to dig in, and Chae-hyun has to admit the flavor actually holds up. But one cone is never enough. The second Seo-yoon spots a mango vendor across the courtyard, she bolts, forcing Diane to scramble after her. She presses right up against the glass, shouting out her order with the exact energy of a little kid. Which makes the next part entirely predictable. The vendor assumes the obvious, smiling as he compliments the 2 teenagers on how cute their daughter is. Seo-yoon clearly finds the whole mix-up hilarious, so Diane fires back by asking just how young she really thinks she looks. Diane blames the issue entirely on Seo-yoon's height. The cheerful vendor hands over their order, and Chae-hyun jokes that the leader of the mango troupe obviously gets the mango flavor. It is a harmless tease, but the vendor repeats the strange title. Dane tries to wave the comment off, and the air behind the counter suddenly turns toxic. Pure hostility spikes right in front of him. Dane gets ready to throw, but Seo-yoon immediately asks if he plans to cheat with telekinesis. It is just a standard carnival dart booth. A perfect score pays out a massive ice cream, but Seo-yoon makes it clear she really wants the second-place teddy bear. That is all the direction he needs. He steps up to the line, confirming a flawless run still lets him claim the bear anyway. Dane promises to win the top prize for Seo-yoon, winding up his throw with every intention of cheating using telekinesis. He steps up to the counter, but a familiar silhouette catches his attention. The math clicks into place and his breath catches. It's the hero Stardust, casually strolling through the festival with her senior and vowing to win the exact same prize. Seo-yoon asks why he froze. She misses the sheer panic locking up his muscles as he braces for the hero stepping directly into his personal space. Haru lines up her shot with a bright smile. She remains completely oblivious to the terrified group sweating bullets behind her back. Stardust zeroes in, her focus absolute as she tracks her target. But that intensity lands squarely on Kim Dane, who completely locks up in a quiet panic the second the hero stops right beside him. The morning sky stays clear over the heart of Paris. Down in the kitchen, the executive chef locks in the perfect temperature on the line. His sous chef burns through the prep work with mechanical precision. That rhythm clears the way for the assistant to drop the final garnish and get the plate out the door. This is exactly how a flawless service is supposed to run. With the clock bleeding out, the entire floor is running on pure panic. Even the veterans are losing their focus, completely derailed by the masterclass happening right next to them. The female chef has shut the rest of the room out, moving at a pace that leaves the competition behind. It takes every ounce of stamina she has left to hold this rhythm, but she doesn't slip, binding the raw fibers together with punishing precision. A dead cooking station usually means a forfeited match, but the chef refuses to fold, sparking up a massive open flame right in the middle of the kitchen. A floor official immediately rushes her counter to enforce the rules, pointing to the provided induction stove because he cannot fathom why she isn't using it. She spins around and snaps, screaming that the equipment is broken and she had no other choice. If his technicalities cost her the competition, is he prepared to take personal responsibility for her loss? The official wisely decides to let it go. Yeon Ji-young barks at the room to back off and let her work. She is a professional chef. Of course, that is exactly when her induction stove completely dies, dropping a cold weight into her stomach. What do you do when the gear fails right at the finish line? She takes a breath and forces the rising panic back down. A lifetime of training means you never stop cooking just because the kitchen breaks, blasting the pan directly with open flame to pull off the save. Yeon sets the pre-seared beef over the grill and drops the heavy lid. This is where the whole service hangs in the balance. The trick to this technique isn't sight, it's sound. She locks in, tuning out the kitchen noise to listen for the exact pitch of the sizzle, letting the smoke curl from the vents. Every second she waits is a gamble between perfectly rendered fat and a burnt disaster. Right at the 1-minute warning, she makes her move and pulls the lid, releasing a massive wave of trapped flavor. Ji-young checks her steak, relieved that she pulled it off the heat at the exact right second. She starts building the plate with a rich velouté, cutting the heavy cream with soybean broth to anchor the flavor, before setting a roasted grain tuile on top for an earthy crunch. The hardest steps are behind her now, and she knows she has a winning dish on her hands. She checks her secret sauce, completely thrilled by how bright the reduction actually turned out. With one final pour of that golden glaze, her masterpiece is officially complete. The final buzzer cuts through the kitchen, stopping every knife and pan in the room. Ji-young wipes the sweat off her brow, fully aware that a few more seconds of delay would have cost her everything. But there is no time to rest, because the judging begins immediately as heavy footsteps command the floor. The announcer builds the hype, calling him the idol of all chefs and the living god of cuisine. The man himself finally steps into the light. Alain Bocuse. Ji-young stares at the legend she has only ever seen on a screen, but Alain doesn't waste a single breath on pleasantries, diving straight into the first plate with a sharp critique. Alain takes a single bite. The Norwegian chef breaks under the heavy silence, forcing a nervous laugh as he asks if the dish passes the test. Alain gives him absolutely nothing, choosing instead to roll the food around in his mouth to isolate every possible flaw. He ends the chef's run with a single word: salty. Across the kitchen, Yeon Ji-young watches the brutal display and finally gets it. The rumors about his impossible standards were entirely true. Alain ignores the groans of the doomed competitors around him, stepping forward to claim his next victim. She steadies her nerves and walks him through the exhausting prep. Every element here is built on extreme patience. Slow-cooked beef simmered in centuries-old soy broth, smoked over a straw fire, and brightened with a 4-year fermented glaze. Alain doesn't offer a single word of encouragement to break the tension. He cuts straight into the meat and takes the first bite. The silence stretches out as he chews, forcing Ji-young to stand there and wonder if she just secured her career or ruined it completely. The silence stretches out, leaving Ji-young with nothing but the sound of her own hammering heart while the head judge pulls her dish apart in his mind. He names the two halves of her strategy out loud. The classic weight of France matched perfectly against the bright notes of Korea. It's a combination that shouldn't work, but he admits it bridges two entirely different worlds. He only needs one word to sum it up. Ji-young braces for the worst. This is it. Months of brutal work compressed into a single verdict from a man who ends careers before breakfast. But the legendary chef doesn't deliver a harsh critique, dropping a piece of pure Korean street slang instead. The food is unbelievably tasty. He shuts down the rest of the competition right on the spot and crowns her the winner. The announcer drops the winner's name, and Ji-young's brain simply stops working. This kind of thing just doesn't happen, but the solid gold in her grip says otherwise, and even with the champion's medal hanging around her neck, standing on stage for the official photo still feels like somebody else's dream. High above the streets of Paris, Yeon Ji-young takes a call with effortless confidence. As the reigning Cuisinier d'Or winner and the hottest chef on the planet, she doesn't mind reminding people exactly who they're talking to. But the victory lap pauses when her secretary steps onto the terrace. A single whisper shifts her entire focus, forcing her to acknowledge the time. She kills the call and dumps a lucrative ad deal right along with it, because whatever meeting is waiting for her next matters more than money. Ji-young tears through her wardrobe, trying to land on the exact right look for a meeting that could define her career. She's about to sit down with Alain Bocuse himself, and first impressions with a culinary legend don't leave room for error. She takes a breath, stepping back to actually acknowledge what she pulled off. Winning the Cuisinier d'Or was a massive victory on its own, but securing a direct sous chef offer from Bocuse changes her entire trajectory. Her phone vibrates against the table, interrupting the quiet with yet another call in an endless stream of industry congratulations. She listens to the buzz and smiles, officially tasting the life of a star. She assumes her career will be a straight road to the top from here on out, which is always a dangerous bet to make. Yeon Ji-young answers her phone, fully prepared to brush off what she assumes is just another request for a photo shoot. She plays the busy star perfectly, but the caller doesn't care about her schedule. They just need to know if her father is Yeon Sung-woo. The question kills the act instantly. Her stomach drops as the stranger on the line delivers the news. Her dad has fallen unconscious. Minutes later, she's tearing down the road toward the airport. She grips the wheel hard, knowing nothing else matters right now except getting to him in time. Yeon Ji-young's father is the reason she ever started cooking, but he is also the man who spent his life trying to block her path. To the rest of the world, he was a giant, a famous historian with endless public respect. But the father she actually grew up with was a wall. No matter how many times she crept to his door and called his name, all she ever got was his back. It is a lonely way to grow up. But that exact same distance leaves his private study open for a curious kid to wander, right up to the shelf where she pulls the one book that rewrites the rest of her life. It starts with a dusty book Ji-young pulls off a library shelf, but the second she opens it, an entire century of culinary secrets dumps straight into her brain. She takes that fresh knowledge directly to the stove, and the work instantly becomes her whole life. She drops out of college to chase it, and her father answers that choice with a brutal backhand. He corners her against the cabinets, screaming that she can never make a living on something so pathetic. The one person who was supposed to back her play just set the stakes for the rest of her life. The explosion is totally unfiltered. Ji-young dares her father to explain why he suddenly cares enough to stand in her way. She throws years of quiet neglect right back in his face, demanding to know why he wants to ruin her dream now. She drops a final desperate vow to succeed just so she can prove him wrong. That was 7 years ago, the night she left home and never looked back. 7 years of total silence end today, leaving her speeding down a wet highway to process a phone call that just shattered her world. Her father is unconscious. The frustration boils over as she asks the empty car if this is really how he plans to pay her back. She was just starting to show her dream to the world. She holds the wheel tight, lost in the one thing that really matters. She could have finally stood proud in front of her father. But she won't get the chance, because a massive freight truck has just crossed into her lane. The danger takes a single blank second to register, forcing her to stomp the brake pedal and brace for a crash she already knows she won't survive. A delivery truck slams into the side of the sedan, sending the car over the edge and straight into the water below. Yeon Ji-young sinks into the dark. Her eyes slide shut as the cold takes over. Is this really how it ends? She walked away from her father's plans just so she could cook, and now she has to pay for it with her life. The unfairness of it stings more than the freezing water. Then a hand grabs her wrist and yanks her upward. Ji-young breaches the surface with a desperate gasp, collapsing onto the grassy bank as she chokes up river water. Yeon Ji-young drags herself onto the dirt, coughing up the river and realizing she actually survived the fall. But the relief dies the second she looks up, finding herself surrounded by a crowd of locals who are armed with sickles and staring in total silence. The real problem isn't the weapons, it's the outfits, which belong hundreds of years in the past. Before she can even begin to process the impossible time jump, a heavy cage slams shut around her. This is no prank, and as the guards haul her down the dirt road, she realizes her lucky survival might just be the start of a much worse nightmare. Summary. Story_beats. Key_beats. Characters introduced. Characters developed. Power moments. Emotional beats. System events. Character map. Stardust. Description. In this flashback, she is a young trainee with long blonde hair tied in a ponytail, wearing a black formal military-style uniform jacket and skirt, previously identified as a hero. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Egostic. Description. Black top hat, black suit and cape, red tie, white mask covering right eye, seen performing a broadcast and teleporting. Currently watching Stardust's actions with visible shock, also appears as a QL2026. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Kim Dane. Description. Short messy black hair, wearing a white hoodie under a dark jacket, shown offering his hand and later reflecting on the future while drinking from a red mug. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Workman. Description. Muscular man, short green hair, gray suit, pink tie with pig patterns, B-rank villain. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Punch. Description. Female hero, black hair and pigtails, red and white martial arts hero suit, C-rank hero. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Kick. Description. Male hero, brown hair, blue hero suit, white bandages on hands and feet, C-rank hero. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Seoyun. Description. Voice on comms, addressed as Hyung by Egostic, likely his female associate. Her dialogue appears in purple-tinted caption boxes. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Rhino. Description. Gray hair with a pointed front, wearing a white tank top and blue pants, identified as an A-rank villain. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Investigator. Description. Short dark hair, blue ID lanyard, white undershirt under a blue jacket, male investigator or assistant. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Han Seo-yoon. Description. Short white hair, purple eyes, seen both in a civilian look with a blue oversized hoodie and black shorts, and as the White Witch, an S-rank villain wearing a purple combat suit with massive purple 2026. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Passersby. Description. A crowd of unnamed civilians in modern clothing seen watching and recording Egostic with their phones. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Villains. Description. Silhouetted associates of Egostic, including a woman with a ponytail and a figure in a hood. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Passerby. Description. Unnamed citizens in a dark alleyway fleeing in panic, including a man in a green striped sweater and a woman with short dark hair. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Hostages. Description. Unnamed civilians inside the observatory, including a woman with brown hair in a white shirt and a man in a light blue hoodie. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Hostage. Description. Unnamed civilians trapped inside the observatory, including a woman in an orange cardigan and a man in a green vest, appearing in a state of extreme panic. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Citizens. Description. Unnamed citizens in the city watching the broadcast, including children, parents, and an elderly man in a wheelchair. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Park Joon-ho. Description. Balding male with glasses, wearing a dark gray suit and blue tie, president of the Korean Hero Association. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Attendant. Description. Unnamed male staff member in a dark suit, seen operating a laptop during the briefing. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Staff. Description. Unnamed association members in dark suits, including a woman with brown hair in a ponytail and a man with gray hair, attending the briefing. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Lee Soo-bin. Description. Young woman with long dark brown hair and brown eyes, wearing an orange cardigan over a white top, previously seen as a terrified hostage in a news broadcast, currently seen wearing a white eye mask with 2026. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Egostic's followers. Description. A group of terrorists dressed in suits, top hats, and masks to mimic Egostic's appearance. They are seen holding rifles and guarding hostages. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. News broadcast. Description. A news report being watched by the characters, providing information via on-screen text boxes. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Association command. Description. Voice heard through Stardust's earpiece, provides orders and tactical updates to heroes. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Electro. Description. A hero with a blue and white suit, wearing a helmet with a visor, crackling with electricity, seen in a flashback. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Terrorist leader. Description. A follower of Egostic wearing the standard top hat and mask uniform, but more vocal and commanding, has dark hair under his hat. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Shin Haru. Description. Stardust civilian identity, long blonde hair tied in a ponytail, wearing a blue and white varsity jacket over a white turtleneck, student at Yonhee University. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. So young. Description: long wavy brown hair, wearing a light blue long sleeve shirt and carrying a brown handbag, Haru's friend at university. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Kim Chae-hyun. Description: long brown hair, brown eyes, wearing a white top under a light blue cardigan and a gray skirt. A kind senior at university who is protective of Haru. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Hanun leaders. Description: faceless figures in suits and lab coats appearing in a flashback, representing the antagonistic corporate entity. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Police officer. Description: male officer with short dark hair, wearing a dark blue uniform with a belt. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Harasser. Description: man with wavy lilac gray hair, wearing a white shirt and a green tie. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Kim Hak-chul. Description: man with wavy lilac gray hair, wearing a white shirt, green tie, and a black vest, identified as an A-rank villain in Teleporter, previously referred to as Harasser. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Test subjects. Description: a group of unnamed children wearing matching hospital gowns, sitting on the floor in a dark room during a flashback. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Thugs. Description: a group of 5 men in suits, some with visible scars or smoking cigarettes, acting as enforcers for a criminal group. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Thugs. Description: a group of 5 men in suits, some with visible scars or smoking cigarettes, acting as enforcers for a criminal group. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Debt-ridden man. Description: man with wavy lilac gray hair, wearing a white shirt and blue tie, seen hanging upside down and tied up with heavy weights. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Bald thug. Description: a muscular bald man in a light gray suit, one of the thugs chasing Kim Hak-chul. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Truck driver. Description: middle-aged man with brown hair, wearing an orange safety vest over a dark gray shirt, seen reacting with shock from his vehicle. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Killer. Description: a man in a black hooded jacket over a gray shirt, holding a handgun and a black notebook while smoking a cigarette in the rain. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Shin Haru. Young. Description: age 17, brown hair, wearing a blue school vest over a white long-sleeve shirt and a striped tie. Seen crying over her fallen parents. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. And Zodiac. Description: S-rank villain appearing in a data file image, long brown hair, wearing a white garment, seen lying defeated on the ground. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Shadow Walker. Description: male hero with short silver hair, wearing a white and black uniform, seen from behind in a news graphic. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Icicle. Description: female hero with long blue hair tied in a half braid, wearing a light blue jacket and dark shorts, seen from behind in a news graphic. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Bystanders. Description: a group of silhouetted, shadowed figures in a crowd, expressing skepticism and criticism toward a hero. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Train passengers. Description: group of civilians tied up with white bandages on a train track wall, including a woman with long brown hair and various men in casual clothes. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Engine room hostages. Description: a man in a white dress shirt and a woman with long brown hair, both bound with white bandages inside a train's control room. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Anonymous viewers. Description: the digital audience watching a Ghostix live broadcast, represented by text boxes and profile icons in the stream interface. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Train track hostage. Description: woman with long brown hair, wearing a white dress shirt, gray trousers, and a gray necktie, seen gagged and later bound with white bandages to train tracks. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Train track hostages. Description: a group of people, including 2 men in dark shirts and gray trousers, bound with thick white bandages and laid across the train tracks. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. News anchor. Description: male news reporter on TV, dark hair, wearing a black suit and blue tie. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Reporter Park. Description: a male news reporter with short dark hair, wearing a white dress shirt. He is highly animated and aggressive in his reporting style. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Moderator. Description: A male news anchor with short dark hair, wearing a dark suit, seen sitting across from Reporter Park. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Dessert vendor. Description: female shopkeeper with short dark hair and a ponytail, wearing a yellow shirt and a blue apron. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Ice cream vendor. Description: a male shopkeeper with short dark hair, wearing a blue long sleeve shirt and a brown apron, seen working at an outdoor ice cream stall. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Game booth attendant. Description: female staff member with short black hair pulled into a neat bun, wears a bright blue polo shirt and a blue identification lanyard. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Key: the executive chef. Description: middle-aged man wearing glasses and a tall white chef's hat, seen saw 200E9ing food in a professional kitchen. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Key: the sous chef. Description: man with wavy brown hair and a chef's hat, seen chopping meat on a green cutting board. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Key: the assistant chef. Description: man wearing a white chef's jacket and a black apron, focused on garnishing a plated steak. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Key: the female chef. Description: woman with brown hair tied in a bun, wearing a white chef's jacket and a black apron, seen performing a complex task with intense focus. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Staff member. Description: young man with short brown hair, wearing a black cap, a black varsity-style jacket over a white t-shirt, and a blue staff lanyard. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Yan Ji-young. Description: highly focused female chef, now seen in her private dressing room with long brown hair down, wearing a white button-down shirt and brown trousers. She is reflecting on her recent success at the Cuisinier d'Or competition. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Alain Boquist. Description: older man with slick back gray hair, a thick gray mustache, and distinctive thin scars under both eyes, wearing a dark gray dress shirt, a black tie, and a black suit jacket, identified as a Legenda 2026. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. A Norwegian chef. Description: man with short curly blonde hair, wearing a white chef's jacket with a Norwegian flag patch and a tall white chef's hat, seen sweating and looking anxious. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. A despondent chef. Description: man with brown hair and a white chef's hat, seen muttering in despair as Alain passes. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Announcer. Description: the unseen master of ceremonies for the Cuisinier d'Or competition, heard over the loudspeaker. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. A secretary. Description: a woman with blonde hair tied in a neat bun, wearing a dark navy or black business suit, seen whispering to Yan Ji-young. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Unknown caller. Description: the mysterious person on the phone who delivers the news about Yan Xingwu. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Yan Xingwu. Description: Yan Ji-young's father. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Yan Ji-young's father. Description: middle-aged man with gray hair, wearing glasses and a dark suit jacket, seen reacting with extreme anger and slapping Ji-young in a flashback. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Young Yan Ji-young. Description: Yan Ji-young is a child, with long brown hair, wearing a pink dress, shown in a flashback seeking her father's attention. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. The official. Description: man in a brown suit shaking hands with Yan Ji-young's father at an award ceremony. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Truck driver. Description: man with short brown hair and a tan cap, seen looking terrified behind the wheel of a large green truck. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. The tall man. Description: a man with a short goatee and sweating brow, wearing a simple white traditional Korean robe, hanbok. He looks down at Ji-young with a stern, judgmental expression. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. The townspeople. Description: a group of men and women dressed in historical Korean commoner clothing. Some are seen carrying sickles and watching Ji-young with suspicion. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. The guards. Description: men wearing dark blue and white Joseon-era military uniforms with wide-brimmed black hats. They are seen transporting Ji-young in a wooden prisoner cart. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Instructor. Description: a middle-aged man with short brown hair and glasses, wearing a dark suit and blue tie. He is lecturing a class of hero candidates. Appeared underscore in underscore panels. Filler underscore panels. Visual underscore focus. Haru cuts her friend off, pulls out her hair tie, and refuses to take another step back. She is done running. But just as she steps forward to fight, a fresh wave of panic rips through the street and freezes her in her tracks. The crowd isn't screaming about the attack anymore. They are screaming about Agostic. South Korea's worst public enemy just dropped right into the middle of the chaos. Agostic crashes the scene from the high ground. He warns the overgrown reptile below that he just stepped into the wrong territory. He leans right into his theatrical villain act, but right in the middle of the threat, his mind wanders to the original timeline. He knows what happens to Stardust if her identity gets out. A hero needs a normal life to survive. He snaps back to reality to scream at the beast. The monster claps back with the one insult guaranteed to hit a nerve, accusing him of being entirely too cozy with the hero. These shipping rumors are officially living rent-free in his head. He takes that frustration straight out on the reptile, driving him into the concrete while his live chat relentlessly laughs at the beatdown. The beast hits the building with a roar, taking the full force of the blow straight into the shattering concrete. But instead of staying down, he forces a wave of heat out of the rubble. He locks his sights on the protagonist and charges across the courtyard. The monster brings his full weight down in a cratering strike, but our lead just lets himself dissolve into light a fraction of a second before impact. He materializes directly in the air above the beast and drives his heel straight down onto the creature's skull. Standing firmly on his opponent's snout, he points out a glaring hole in the monster's intel. Knowing his name doesn't mean much if you didn't bother to learn he can teleport. The creature loses his mind, thrashing out of the smoke and screaming at him to fight fair. He takes the hit, dropping a desperate reminder that he is, in fact, a villain. But the live feed is rolling, and he knows exactly how this looks. If he bails now, everyone is going to assume he only showed up to protect Stardust. He screams for a timeout, forcing the giant reptile to actually pause the fight, and demands to know why the monster suddenly attacked him out of nowhere. The answer is absurdly simple. The beast wants Stardust. Agostic also seems to want Stardust, which makes them rivals. The sheer stupidity of that math leaves him totally baffled. The viewers are already having a field day with the love triangle rumors, but Agostic refuses to lose control of his own narrative, shouting over the noise to make his next point. The beast levels a massive claw at him, roaring that Agostic had promised to kill him first. Agostic just stares, completely lost. The crocodile doubles down, dropping into a mocking impression of him, down to actually saying the word nod out loud, and quotes a threat Agostic never made. Our boy frantically waves his hands to deny the whole thing. This is the part where it gets ugly. The rejection only pushes the monster past his breaking point, and he erupts into a furious roar. Agostic watches the beast draw in a heavy breath. He knows exactly what this is, the creature's signature attack. The torrent launches across the roof, and he leaps clear just before the impact. A near miss leaves Agostic perfectly aware that a single clean hit means instant death, and Crocodile Man eats up the fear. But the streamer is already moving. He whips his cape back and rises into the air, summoning an arsenal of glowing rifles in a tight ring around his target. He snaps his fingers with a final curse. Every single barrel unloads at once, tearing the rooftop apart in a massive explosion. Agostic drops back down into the smoke, asking out loud if that did the trick. His viewers immediately flag the question as a terrible cliché, and they are absolutely right. Crocodile Man steps through the flames completely untouched, laughing at the idea that ordinary bullets could pierce his hide. A second later, a blue phone and a white mask hit the empty pavement. The entire retreat was just a setup to make the beast drop his guard. As Agostic dives back in, he tosses his payload. The monster opens his jaws to curse him out, catching the glowing charge right in the throat, and the blast tears him apart from the inside out. The math here is simple. Agostic knows from the original timeline that this monster's outer hide gave the real heroes a massive headache, so he didn't even bother trying to pierce it. He just bypassed the armor entirely. The giant's knees buckle, and he crashes onto his back while the live stream completely loses its mind. Viewers are already demanding the Hero Association give their guy an official license, laughing at the fact that he still insists on calling himself a villain while single-handedly disarming the entire threat. Agostic drops to his knees, running on empty after pushing his limits. He would love to use his powers to clean up the scattered weapons, but right now it takes everything he has just to lift his phone. When he finally checks the screen, the chat makes him freeze. His viewers assume he came here to save the day. That ruins the setup, so he immediately pushes back, telling the stream he only killed the crocodile monster because they had personal beef. He makes it clear he isn't out here doing favors for the public, but he doesn't get to control the narrative for long. A streak of light crashes into the courtyard, and Stardust rises from the dust. Agostic doesn't even try to hide it, flatly admitting he took the man out just for being in the way. Stardust presses for a real answer, but the truth is almost a joke. The guy kept screaming about the two of them being a couple, and he was tired of listening to it. Then he calls her by name, and the playful energy drops completely. He delivers a warning that cuts straight to the bone, telling her to never again consider unmasking for the crowd. If she reveals her true face, her real life is over. How could a villain possibly know the exact sacrifice she had just been weighing? The realization that he saw right through her locks her completely in place. Egostic wraps up the broadcast with a cheerful promise for next month, completely ignoring the chat, screaming about the muted audio. He drops a quick goodbye, triggers his escape, and leaves Stardust standing there completely shell-shocked. This is where the act breaks. The moment the teleport ends inside his hideout, his legs give out. He hits the floor hard and coughs up blood across the tiles. The mask comes off. Dane gasps for air as the physical toll of the stunt finally catches up with him. He doesn't even have time to hide it before Seo-yoon and Chae-hyun burst through the door and sprint toward his collapsed body. He reaches down and picks up the mask. Back in her room, Stardust sits in the blue glow of her monitor, digging for answers. The top story confirms Crocodile Man's arrest, but it's the news column below that leaves her staring at the screen in silence. The press is already asking if Egostic is even a villain at all, and fan pages are flooding with people chanting his name. How do you fight a guy when the entire city is already taking his side? Shin Haru sits in her dim bedroom with a headache that just keeps getting worse. The public hero forums are flooded with people openly praising Mangostic, and nobody even tries to hide it. She glares at the glowing monitor. She risks her life for these citizens, and they want the bad guy to win. When a dancing fan video pops up right in the middle of a villain praise thread, the insult finally pushes her over the edge. Sprawled out on her bedroom floor, Shin Haru lets the bitter reality sink in. She is supposed to be the hero, but everyone likes Egostic more. His mocking advice to just stay out of sight hangs heavy in her mind, and for the first time, she actually wonders if everyone else was right. This is what it looks like when a hero's conviction finally starts to cracks. Meanwhile, in a hidden laboratory, Seo-yoon stands over a glowing pod with her assistant, quietly preparing their next move. Seo-yoon fumes outside the medical glass, blaming Stardust for the state our boy is in, but a sudden rustle cuts her off as Diane finally stirs. He offers a weak smile to the room, asking why everyone is staring at him like he's already buried. Seo-yoon breaks down completely, throwing herself into his arms while he weakly tries to soothe her. He's been unconscious for 3 days, and over a quiet dinner, he finally does the math on what went wrong. Stacking teleportation and telekinesis back-to-back pushed his body way past its natural limit. This is the cost of fighting out of his weight class. Seo-yoon makes it crystal clear he is never to pull a stunt like that again, and for once, he knows better than to argue. Diane is actually a bit touched by the display, figuring all their shared gaming sessions finally paid off if she's willing to shed tears over him. But the lab assistant across the table ruins the moment, pressing him on why he suddenly rushed out to play hero. Seo-yoon jumps right in, eager to mock his constant insistence on being the bad guy. He defends his choice with simple math. If he hadn't stepped in, Stardust would have taken the hit. His partner doesn't see the problem with that. That forces Diane to drop the casual act and deliver a heavy truth. Letting Stardust take the fall is fatal. He lays out the grim reality of the business, where an exposed hero becomes an immediate target for every grudge-holding criminal in the city. Seo-yoon still doesn't see how this is their problem, so he spells out the fundamental imbalance of their world. Out here, almost everyone who gets superpowers skips the noble route and walks straight into villainy. It's a numbers game, and the good guys are completely outclassed. Diane lays out the brutal math of this world. Why risk everything as a hero for zero reward when being a villain is so much easier? Right now, Korea only has 3 A-rank heroes holding the line, while the top-tier villains are practically overflowing. Back at the apartment, Seo-yoon isn't buying the grand speech. She points out that he's basically doing the hero's dirty work, but Diane dodges the accusation, claiming he just cares about the nation's future. She knows him better than that. Her eyes narrow as the real suspicion takes over. Is he putting his life on the line just because he has a crush on Stardust? He doesn't give her a straight answer, instead just scratching his neck and scolding her for her language. It is exactly the wrong thing to say. A heavy, suffocating aura drops over the dinner table, and Seo-yoon just glares at him in total silence. Their third roommate jumps in before the tension can ruin the meal, reminding Seo-yoon to bring up what they talked about earlier. The dark cloud instantly vanishes as she turns back to Diane, ready to drop some real news. With summer closing in, Seo-yoon pitches a trip to the beach, and to her shock, Diane actually agrees. She throws a fist in the air to celebrate a rare win, until her boss drops the inevitable catch. Before they pack any bags, Diane insists they stage one more terror attack. His recent surge in popularity is ruining his villainous brand, meaning he needs his approval rating shoved back into the gutter where it belongs. But PR control is only half the equation. He already did the math on that crocodile monstrosity. If Stardust had fought it instead of him, she would have died. The world's threats are escalating faster than she is, so he has to force her to grow. Seo-yoon accepts the delay with a pout, demanding a firm guarantee that the vacation is still happening. Diane offers his word, locking in an absurd contrast, the city's most wanted mastermind and his top accomplice, sealing their next disaster with a pinky swear. Seo-yoon practically vibrates with excitement, already announcing she needs to pack. Her brain is moving faster than her feet, shifting immediately into planning mode. Standing at the whiteboard, she takes complete charge of the briefing, leaving Diane quietly impressed by just how proactive his newest recruit is. She circles her crude drawings of the observatory and the train to point out an obvious pattern. His previous attacks were strictly land-based operations, so to keep the authorities guessing, she pitches a natural escalation, suggesting they take the chaos to the water or straight into the sky. Diane presses his fingers to his temples to chase a loose idea, letting the god of terror deliver exactly what he needs for his next move. Subin senses the shift immediately and asks what he sees, watching a dark grin stretch across his face as the vision turns into a commercial airliner plunging straight into the sea. He and Seo-yoon immediately start chuckling over the scale of the upcoming chaos, leaving the group's one normal friend to question her life choices. High above the clouds, the target is already in motion, carrying dozens of passengers who just want to sleep through a quiet flight. They have no clue what is coming for them until the cabin lights suddenly cut out. Up at cruising altitude, the cabin is perfectly relaxed, right until every screen in the aisles suddenly drops the in-flight movie to broadcast a single live feed. The host welcomes them to the greatest quiz show on Earth, running exclusively for everyone currently trapped at 25,000 feet. Passengers start demanding answers from the crew, assuming this is just a technical glitch and a bad joke. They have no idea what they've actually been drafted into. The broadcast decides to clear up any lingering confusion, dropping the casual admission that the aircraft is rigged with a live explosive. Up in the cockpit, the captain spots the physical device, proving the threat isn't an empty bluff. The truth finally ripples through the aisles, shattering the cabin into a blind panic. You can already see the shape of the trap. There is zero way off this flight. Egostic locks in his opening move, officially setting the real game into motion. Years ago, the real story begins out in an abandoned warehouse district on the edge of Seoul. Inside, a villain named Thousand Needle is completely convinced the entire country is about to fall under his control. The speech doesn't last. A calm rejection drifts from the shadows, shattering the mood and sending the hired muscle into a panic. They demand a name, and the young man gives them the one title he definitely hasn't earned yet: a hero. Playing the rookie A-class hero to perfection, young Egostic adjusts his gloves and calls out the room. Thousand Needle doesn't seem shook. He stretches his back, asking if the kid even knows whose territory he just crashed. A henchman panics over the compromised perimeter, but young Egostic ignores him, already tracking the shift in the air. The follow-up comes screaming in. Thousand Needle throws a loaded punch to defend his turf, driving a massive pillar of force straight across the warehouse. A normal hero would dodge, but he just watches it come, taking the full detonation point blank. Thousand Needle freezes the moment he loses sight of his target, spinning to search the empty warehouse. The trap is already sprung. A thick shadow grabs a masked thug by the ankle, dragging him screaming straight down into the solid floor. Within seconds, the darkness swallows the rest of the crew. Now completely alone, Thousand Needle lets his aura flare, bracing his stance as he admits this isn't some ordinary fighter. The shadows shift against the ceiling right above him. Egostic drops down for the ambush, but Thousand Needle smiles. He was waiting for this exact move. Thousand Needle unleashes a desperate burst of power to clear the space, screaming that the kid has no idea who he's dealing with. He flashes a wide grin, totally certain that one strike was enough. It's a bad assumption. The smoke clears to reveal nothing but a dark puddle on the floor. He spins around in a panic as a taunt echoes from the shadows, throwing his own words right back at him. He looks over his shoulder, and the power dynamic in the room flips for good. Egostic quietly corrects him on whose territory this actually is, ending the fight in a single second by crushing the man in a massive hand of shadow. The win is clean, but the toll of using that much energy immediately hits his own chest. He drags himself up the stairs, wondering if the backlash alone might kill him. With the hero exactly where he wants her, he smiles into his microphone to announce the final game. The broadcast plays straight into the cabin of a hijacked commercial flight, where dozens of hostages sit frozen in their seats. Nobody dares to move a muscle, fully aware that one wrong breath could end it all. This dead silence took a very specific kind of terror to build. Just 30 minutes earlier, the start of the hijacking had thrown the entire cabin into screaming panic. Stardust stands numb in the settling dust, quietly asking the chairman for their next move, but the voice in her earpiece doesn't care about the disaster on the ground. He tells her he is too busy drafting a public statement to help, cutting the line dead the second the president calls. What do you do when the people in charge completely abandon you? She has nothing left to fight, and her legs finally give out. She managed to stop the runaway train, but the math on this crisis doesn't add up, and her power just isn't enough to handle what's standing in front of her. She drops her head, completely out of answers. The helplessness pulls her straight back to the one memory she spent her life outrunning. She is a kid again in a dark alley, clinging to her parents and screaming a promise to kill the man who took them. Her fist shatters the concrete. All these years of training, and she hasn't moved a single inch from that rainy street. Egostic's voice cuts through the static, offering a polite greeting to the ruined hero. Meanwhile, back at the base, Kim Dane stretches out in his chair. He chalks the easy win up to the perks of running a remote-controlled operation, but the downtime ends when Seo-yun flags him down from the console. She points to the live feed in confusion, because instead of rallying, the hero they just beat is standing motionless in the dirt. Egostic nearly climbs over the console in a panic. He completely fails to understand why his nemesis has frozen up. A disaster is unfolding right in front of her, and she isn't moving. He barks an order at Seo-yun to patch him straight into Stardust comms. He cuts off his assistant's confusion to force the connection through before time runs out. Half a mile away, the hero flinches as the villain's voice drops directly into her earpiece. She spits out a string of curses. Egostic casually ignores the venom and asks why she's just watching the plane go down instead of doing her job. She screams that he was the one who sabotaged the flight in the first place, which is true, but what does that matter right now? If she doesn't stop the crashes, nobody else is going to. The math is impossible, and hitting a 1,000-kilometer-per-hour block of steel is a guaranteed death sentence. She screams into the comms to ask if this was his grand plan to get rid of her. The voice on the other end completely ignores the physics and orders her to brace herself, fly up, and save the city below. Then he drops the line that makes the entire world stop. He tells her she can pull this off simply because of who she is. What do you do when the only person who believes in you is the villain who orchestrated the disaster? The hero is completely thrown. She tries to figure out what this lunatic actually wants until he answers with a final quiet question over the radio. Why would he ever try to kill her? He walks toward the broken hero and lays the truth out bare. Without her, he is nothing but a common villain. He admits she is the only thing that completes him, and the confession lands with an unsettling sincerity. What do you do when the enemy is the only one telling the truth? The words scramble everything she thought she knew about this fight. She pushes herself up from the wreckage and weighs the risk. Stardust forces herself up from the wreckage and weighs the risk. With a commercial airliner hurtling toward the ground, she pushes past her limits to intercept it, because walking away means surviving, but the weight of this loss would break her anyway. Meanwhile, Egostic watches her desperate sprint from the sidelines, cheerfully rooting for the hero to pull it off. Stardust finally stops running from who she is, deciding that if she has to choose between playing it safe and doing the impossible, she would rather risk everything to protect them. How do you make peace with a single mistake that kills hundreds? Down in the wreckage, one man is finding out. He breaks down in the dark, crushed by the terrible truth that his own slip in focus just doomed the entire train. The faces of his wife and kids flash in his mind. He reaches out into the empty air, begging for forgiveness from a family he knows he will never see again. There is no coming back from this kind of guilt. Inside the cabin, the sheer terror of falling is interrupted by a strange shift in momentum. Down on the tarmac, the ground crew watches the aircraft defy gravity in real time. Up in the cockpit, the pilot gets on the radio to confirm what everyone is feeling. They aren't flying anymore. They are being safely lowered by an outside force. And that's the part nobody on board can see. Taking the entire weight of the commercial jet onto her own shoulders, Stardust acts as their living landing gear. She forces herself upward against the crushing pressure, demanding just a few more seconds of strength from a body that is already past its limit. A flight attendant's panicked shout cuts through the cabin, demanding to know if Kim Deok-bae is all right. He isn't. The older man fights a blinding spike of pain, desperately trying to process the reality of this place. It proves to be too much weight for one mind, and he slips straight into unconsciousness right there in his seat. The adrenaline finally runs out. Feet hit the solid tarmac. He shakes his head and asks the empty air how they survived a guaranteed crashes. Then he looks past the crowd and finds his answer. Stardust, kneeling on the runway. Back at the apartment, Stardust's mother tries to shake off the morning's lingering tension. The quiet doesn't even last a full minute before her phone goes off. She answers expecting her husband, but the voice on the other end delivers a piece of news that stops her dead in the middle of the room. This wasn't supposed to happen today. On the other end of the line, Shin Haru tosses out a lifeline, promising she's already cleared a beach vacation with the association president. The tension drains out of Stardust's shoulders, and she jumps at the offer to leave tomorrow. Later, she steps out onto the balcony to look over the city. She takes a slow breath and lets the silence settle it. She can handle whatever comes next, because that is exactly who she is. Out on her balcony, Haru watches the city, trying to square everything this supposed mere villain has done with the absolute faith he seems to have in her. The math just doesn't work. She runs through the plane attack again. If he knew she would save everyone, what was the point of the stunt? Why hand the hero a massive public victory if you actually want to destroy her? She rubs her temples, exhausted by the contradictions. Egostic. The man is a walking puzzle, but she knows one thing for sure. Every chaotic move he makes is tied to a much larger design. Stardust finally makes a decision. She is going to dig into Egostic's past and figure out what he's really up to. But before she can start, her phone buzzes with a call from the Hero Association. She answers out on her balcony, expecting a routine update. A loud cheer rings out from a quiet street. Han Seo-in is already strapped into a bright yellow pool tube, declaring that the greatest day of her life has finally arrived. The guy loading the car just wants her to deflate the thing so they can actually leave. Seo-in bounces into the street with a pool tube over her head, leaving Diane already questioning his life choices. But as he watches them pack, the reality settles in. This is the first genuine break he's had since crossing into this world. A rare smile breaks through, and he decides to actually let himself enjoy a day off. That optimism lasts exactly until they hit the highway, where the crew is immediately swallowed by a massive traffic jam. To make matters worse, the air conditioner picks today of all days to die, leaving them to slowly roast in their seats. A melting Seo-in begs him to just teleport the vehicle straight to the beach. Diane logically shuts her down, pointing out the move would kill them instantly and they need a rest stop instead. Stuck in highway traffic, Seo-in complains they should have just taken the train, but Diane reminds her the heavy luggage made that impossible. She reaches into the back seat to see what kind of vacation gear was so important. She pops the case open to find a handgun sitting next to a box of ammo. Diane gives a cheerful thumbs up, explaining that you never know what might happen on the road. This is exactly the wrong thing to say. Seo-in finally snaps, screaming about his idea of a holiday while Diane suddenly has to beg her to put the weapon down before she uses it on him. They do manage to survive the drive, eventually pulling up to the bright blue water of the coast. All her anger vanishes the second she hits the sand. She leaps toward the waves with a swim tube, leaving Diane to watch from his chair. She really is just a kid at heart. Dane cracks open a cold drink, accepting the can Subin offers as she sits down beside him. A quiet second stretches out between them, carrying the kind of heavy pause that usually means a serious conversation is coming. Subin breaks the silence first to thank him for everything he's done, leaving Dane completely lost. She spells it out for him. He saved her life at the start and always treats her kindly. Dane immediately shuts the praise down with a thumbs up, insisting he's the lucky one since she handles the housework and actually knows how to cook, and his mind immediately cycles through every comic book trope he knows to find the trap. He even eyes the soda can in his hand, half expecting the thing to be rigged to blow. Across the city at the Hero Association headquarters, two staff members up on the balcony are struggling to make sense of the plane incident. A hero with those baseline numbers shouldn't have been able to stop a crashes. They take the easy out, assuming their equipment simply missed her true potential. But as Stardust stares at the flat zero on her testing machine, she knows the truth. The original measurements were perfectly accurate. Stardust clenches her fist, gathering a heavy charge while the staff above draw their conclusions. Stopping a guaranteed disaster proves exactly who she is. Down in the chamber, she launches herself at the far wall. The suits freeze as the numbers suddenly spike. She screams, throwing everything she has into a single strike. She drives herself straight into the impact zone, shouting that she still has what it takes. The heavy steel plating buckles instantly, giving way to an eruption of force that blasts toward the ceiling. There is only one path left. Stardust makes a single promise to herself. She has to get stronger. Subin takes the compliment with a heavy blush, which immediately sets off alarm bells in Diane's head. His brain starts spiraling into paranoia. Is a quiet moment ever just a quiet moment? In his experience, a sudden romantic shift usually means someone is about to drop dead or turn traitor. Out by the hotel pool, Seo-yoon spots the two of them from the water. Diane tries to keep things strictly professional, telling Subin he'll be counting on her, but Seo-yoon suddenly looms over their chairs with a dark glare, demanding to know why they are getting cozy without her. Seo-yoon demands they actually spend time together since this is supposed to be a family trip, but she realizes her mistake the second Diane agrees. He scoops her right off the sand and chucks her straight into the water to give her exactly what she asked for. She breaches the surface, sputtering. A clump of seaweed slaps right across his face while she yells about the water in her nose. The whole thing is chaos, but as Diane peels the kelp off his cheek, he just smiles. When was the last time they had a quiet moment like this? Kim Diane takes full advantage of the ocean, launching a massive wave that catches Han Seo-yoon completely off guard. He doesn't know it yet, but this is the last quiet moment anyone gets today. Miles away, the sun is already gone. A heavy transport truck tears down an empty highway, carrying a heavily armed crew with a very different itinerary for the evening. Inside the rig, a bald commander rallies his men, demanding the name of tonight's mark. The answer from the back is a mouthful: the most expensive, high-profile luxury mega hotel in Busan. The commander has zero interest in a quiet job. He wants the entire city to feel this one, and Diane steps up to the front desk to check them in under Seo-yoon's name. The receptionist slides over a single keycard, and the math lands instantly. One room for 3 people. He turns to Seo-yoon, who is suddenly very interested in the ceiling, whistling and offering a weak excuse about saving money. The situation only gets worse at the elevator. Diane points out the suite has exactly 1 bed, which Seo-yoon brushes off with a cheerful pitch to just share the super king-size mattress together. Subin quietly agrees to the arrangement, leaving Diane completely cornered. The 3 of them have never shared a bed before, and he doesn't know how he is going to survive the night. Peeking through the gap, Diane tries to convince himself the night will be completely normal. For a few hours, he gets exactly what he asked for, nothing but heavy sleep and snoring. But you can only let your guard down for so long. A muffled countdown starts from the hallway, and a second later, a fully armed tactical squad kicks the door straight off its hinges. The breach should be a rude awakening, but Diane doesn't even open his eyes. His hand simply moves on pure instinct, blasting the entire assault team backward with a single flick before they can even clear the threshold. Diane shakes off his sleep, staring at the unconscious gunman on his floor. He cracks the door to see what else the night dragged in, and finds tactical units already storming the hallway to herd terrified guests out of their rooms. The reality of a full-scale terrorist attack lands. He grips the doorframe hard enough to splinter the wood, furious that his only 2 vacations have both ended with a body count. But a glance at the news feed changes the math. Shadow Walker is on site, and an attack in the dark means the enemy came completely prepared. The news breaks across every screen. An A-class hero has just been found collapsed in western Incheon. Han Seo-eun rubs the sleep from her eyes, asking the obvious question about a terrorist attack, while Diane just sighs, already past the point of being surprised. He orders her to wake Subin and lock down the room, stepping straight through a rift as he curses the timing of yet another ruined vacation. He drops into the back of a parked car, checking the street below where a tactical team has already cordoned off the perimeter. There is zero chance he slips out of here without clearing the board first. He digs through the back seat until his hand hits exactly what he needs. What do you do when a local terror cell interrupts your time off? If you're Diane, you pull out the spare mask you packed for exactly this reason, and you go show them who they just woke up, throwing off the covers with a theatrical shout about delivering his wrath. Down in the lobby, the situation is entirely unscripted. The A-class villain Monkey Spanner runs a final check on his heavily armed crew, taking a moment to appreciate their bloodthirsty cheers. He broadcasts a direct ultimatum to the government. Wire the cash immediately, or the hundreds of people tied up on the floor get slaughtered. He screams out his bank account number to a room full of hostages who already know exactly how bad their odds are. The masked man strolls past the crouching hostages, casually writing the entire stunt off as painfully boring. He raises a hand. He instantly rips the shotguns right out of the hijackers' grips, leaving the men paralyzed as their own weapons turn back on them. A single brutal strike drops the closest threat. But back inside, he stumbles backward to keep up the act, perfectly playing the exhausted civilian while the crowd screams around him. He does the math on the internal drain, knowing that single strike just burned through months of stored telekinesis. The sheer force of the blast craters the floor, driving the heavily armed leader straight into the dirt. But he can't let the strain show, so he holds a relaxed posture in front of the hostages and asks if this absolute joke of an ambush is really what passes for a terrorist attack these days. The insult hits the exact nerve he was aiming for. Now he just has to deal with a furious killer. The laughter rings out into the quiet night. The terrorist leader freezes. A single bullet wasn't enough to drop his target. The masked man just sits there, bleeding from his chest, and casually asks if that was his best shot. He calls out for his monkey spanner to seal the bluff, holding the terrifying act together while he sweats through the pain. But the old man doesn't know that, and his survival instincts finally take over, screaming at him to run from the man sitting in front of him, agnostic. The fear is doing all the work for him, because Monkey Spanner is already spiraling, fully convinced he's on a phantom hit list, and this entire encounter was a setup. The masked man leans into the act, offering his enemy a single chance to turn around and run. Spanner hesitates to spot the trap, so our boy pushes harder. He throws the suspicion right back at the terrorist, complaining that this whole mess ruined his vacation. Under the mask, he's barely holding on, silently begging the man to just take the bait before he passes out from the pain. It works. Spanner swallows his pride, framing the retreat as a tactical survival move for the future king of South Korea. He sprints for the glass doors, completely convinced he just lived to fight another day. But a massive energy strike blasts him back. The bluff wasn't the trap. Stardust steps through the smoke, and she isn't offering anyone a chance to leave. Stardust surveys the wreckage of the monkey gang, but as the A-rank hero Icicle steps through the rubble, she realizes the job is already finished. Shadow Walker follows her in, annoyed that the syndicate launched another attack the very second he dropped a fake article to throw them off. Kim Dane sits slouched against the debris, completely exhausted, silently wondering where these heroes even came from. Stardust zeroes in on him, demanding to know if he actually took down the terrorist leader himself. Our boy is barely holding on. He knows exactly what happens if his eyes close. If he loses focus right now, he dies. Dane grips his wound and runs the desperate math in his head, figuring that if he can just stall long enough to recover the stamina for 2 more teleports, he survives. Back in the control room, Seo Yoon watches in tense silence as he finally answers the standoff, claiming to be a secret S-rank hero operating completely off the books. How long can he actually keep pretending he has this under control? The wild claim briefly blindsides the team, but Stardust immediately calls him out, confirming the association has zero record of anyone like that. They demand his real name. His lie is already falling apart, and the window to escape just got a lot smaller. Dane doesn't back down. Instead, he lectures Stardust on what it actually means to act in secret, before casually calling out Icicle and Shadow Walker by rank. It is a ridiculous gamble, but he leans all the way into the veteran persona, claiming he has been running things since the generation before they even started. Back in the control room, Seo Yoon grabs her hair. He just dropped a lie big enough to get them all killed, and there is nothing she can do to pull him back. Stardust is bleeding out, begging for just a fraction more strength so she can finish this. She throws herself forward with everything she has left, desperate to reach the civilians before it's too late. But the rescue goes sideways the second one of the hostages screams at her to move. A massive shockwave tears through the room, forcing her back. As it turns out, she doesn't actually need to make the save. Icicle is already in position, dropping a barrier over the terrified crowd. It's the right play, except the blast hits harder than anyone calculated, tearing right past the defense and catching the ice hero completely off guard. As the getaway vehicle tears into the night, Diane bleeds out in the back seat, but his priority isn't his own survival. He orders Seo Yoon to wipe every trace of them being in Busan. If they get caught now, the entire operation dies with him. The warning is cut short when a fresh wave of agony hits, leaving him struggling to hold himself together. From the driver's seat, his associate begs to reroute to a hospital, but Diane shuts the idea down immediately. Without the strength to teleport them out of an ambush, a public stop is a guaranteed capture. She hates the math, but she knows he's right. Gripping the wheel, she takes command and screams at Seo Yoon to crack open the first aid kit. But the order just bounces off. The girl is frozen, unable to process the reality of the man she relies on bleeding to death. Diane screams for her to hurry, snapping Seo Yoon out of her shock just enough to pull herself together. Diane promises to get them out of there first. She floors the accelerator, launching the getaway car down the dark road. Back at the hotel lobby, the response teams are already doing damage control, wrapping the traumatized survivors in blankets and escorting them away from the wreckage. A few yards away, Icicle shouts her frustration at the ceiling. These villains couldn't give them a single day off for their first vacation in months, but the gray-haired hero is completely checked out. He retreats into the shadows to rest, leaving Icicle to stumble through a guilty apology for dragging him out here in the first place. Icicle tries to break the heavy silence, pointing out that her partner likely would have shown up here regardless of the plan. But the casual approach doesn't land, leaving Stardust trapped in her own regret while her partner tries to call her back to reality. A tired commuter fights to keep his eyes open, wondering if a piece of gum will get him through the rest of the drive. That choice gets made for him when a black streak tears past his window. He shouts at the empty road. The taillights vanish in a blur, leaving him to guess the maniac has to be pushing past 220. Inside that speeding car, Han Seo-in has both hands locked on the wheel. She ignores her terrified passenger completely, because only one target matters tonight, Agostic. Dane barely survives the fallout, clutching his patched-up abdomen as he fights just to pull air into his lungs. But while he focuses on staying conscious, Stardust decides it is time to tear into his history. Later that night, combing through the news feeds in her apartment, she starts tracking the pattern. The massive airplane attack followed the exact same script: maximum property damage, 0 casualties. She runs the alternate scenario in her head. What if he hadn't tipped them off and she hadn't arrived in time? She replays his voice from the wreckage, telling her she could win simply because of who she was. He wasn't guessing. He sent her into that fight with absolute certainty, operating on the impossible knowledge that her powers were about to evolve before she even knew it herself. Stardust tries to write his warning off as a coincidence, but the numbers don't lie. She is undeniably stronger because he got involved. She flips through the files of his recent victims and spots the thread tying them together. Every single rogue he eliminated was a ticking time bomb meant to cause a massive disaster, a fact that forces her to rethink the entire board. He isn't a hero, but the standard villain label doesn't fit either. He is setting up a grand stage, and she swears she will tear the mask off his face the very next time he steps into the spotlight. Meanwhile, the internet has its own theories. Back at the apartment, Seo Yoon scrolls through a massive thread that paints Agostic as a former S-class hero with old association beef. She reads the entire breakdown aloud, while Diane just begs her to let him finish his dinner in peace. The associate tries to play peacemaker and give Diane some space, but Seo Yoon has finally hit her limit, exploding at him over the sheer stupidity of forcing another terror attack while playing the reluctant villain. The sudden outburst leaves him staring at the table in complete silence until he finally drops the answer they've been begging for: a solid 3-month break. While the girls celebrate the rare bit of common sense, Diane just keeps eating, planning to lay low until the public's obsession with his alter ego naturally fades. But laying low doesn't actually mean taking a vacation, because he desperately needs to recruit a new member. What do you do with a character destined to break the world? The original story had exactly one healer, and leaving her alone guarantees she grows into a massive threat down the line, so if he can't just kill her now, he has to pull her into the crew. 3 months pass, and Stardust is just trying to squeeze in some studying at a local cafe when Association Command drops a dispatch order in her ear. Her first reaction tells you exactly where her head has been. She immediately asks if it's Agostic. The voice on the line shoots that down, confirming it's just some random guy calling himself Rock Bottom. The disappointment hits her hard. She swallows the letdown and takes the mission, launching herself out over the city. She has a job to do, but only one rival is living rent-free in her head right now. High above the city, Stardust is officially out of patience, wondering where her actual nemesis has been hiding for the last 3 months. Back at the hideout, the answer is simple. Kim Bain sits glued to the news broadcast with a bucket of popcorn, cheering her arrival while Han Seo-yoon looks like she'd rather be anywhere else. On screen, an A-class villain named Rock Bottom roars at the sky, fully ready to drop his big monologue. It's a bad bet. He barely gets her name out before Stardust snaps, driving a massive strike straight into his rocky face purely because he isn't the guy she actually wants to fight. The blast hits the street like a bomb, burying the villain in a crater. But miles away in a quiet living room, Kim Bain is on his feet celebrating. His plan worked, and pushing that power boost to Stardust was exactly the right call. The problem is Han Seo-yoon, who watches his fanboy routine from the couch without a hint of amusement. She finally snaps, sick of watching him waste every single day lurking on the Stardust fan cafe. Dane tries to play dumb, which is a terrible move against the master hacker. She already knows he secretly runs the entire fan group, and she's done letting him hide it. Seo-yoon checks the calendar, eagerly asking if today's agenda involves a full-scale terror attack. He smiles and drops the real objective for the afternoon. They need to find a new recruit. Across town, a middle-aged man stands at an overlook, marveling at how little the neighborhood has changed. He stays caught up in his memories of the old days, completely ignoring the girl in the orange cap who brushes right past him on the stairs. The prompt could not be submitted. The prompt contains sensitive words that violate Google's generative AI prohibited use policy. Try rephrasing the prompt. If you think this was an error, send feedback. Finding the boy with a scraped knee from a clumsy fall, Lee Ha-yul drops into a crouch and gives him a gentle scolding about being careful. The kid freezes in awe the second her hand starts to glow, watching the broken skin knit itself back together under a wash of green light. She drops her own baseball cap onto his head and sends him off with a warm smile, promising to bring him back a treat. It's a simple, everyday favor, which is exactly why the system window feels so wrong when it finally drops her real title. This protective older sister is Lee Ha-yul, the girl destined to become a future villain known as the Ex-Saintess. She heads down the empty alley, leaving the boy completely unaware of the threat that just fixed his knee. Ha-yul pushes the door open, eager to share a warm meal, but a harsh voice from the dark stops her dead. The local gang has already broken in, leaving her brother trapped on the floor with stolen wallets scattered everywhere. The leader forces Chae-yoon's head back, making it clear that hiding a cut breaks their contract, and the penalty for that is death. This is the part where it gets ugly. Ha-yul is terrified, but she still orders the men to take the cash and leave him alone. The leader just mocks her by yanking the boy's hair. The gang member yanks Chae-hyun back by the hair. He forces Ha-yul to watch what her defiance just bought them. When he draws a blade to teach the kid a permanent lesson, she completely breaks. She screams her surrender, begging for mercy. What do you do when the only person who can spare your brother is the one holding the knife? You watch him bring it down anyway. The strike never hits flesh. A blur of force tears through the room and launches the attacker backward. Before the crew can react, glowing blue firearms appear out of nowhere. They press directly against the thug's skulls. They freeze in place, letting Kim Dae-in dash through the ranks. He drops the muscle to the floor before anyone can blink. Ha-yul crushes her little brother in a desperate hug, screaming his name. Watching from the steps, Agostic takes in the weight of what he just pulled off. This is the moment the whole timeline officially breaks. Originally, today was the day Chae-hyun died at the hands of the gang, a loss that would have consumed Ha-yul with grief and pushed her straight to the dark side. If our protagonist had been even a minute late, it would have been a disaster. But the quiet moment shatters the second Hyul senses an unwelcome presence, and she immediately yanks Chaehyun back. She steps up to shield him, recognizing the masked man in the courtyard right away. Egostic doesn't try to calm her down, instead leaning entirely into his theatrical villain persona as he greets them both by name and casually announces that he is taking them with him. Hyul isn't buying a single word of this routine, demanding to know why a villain would target them in the first place. The man just sighs and leans into the savior act. He warns them that the police are on their way and time is running out. She tells him she would rather die than follow a monster. But before she can finish the threat, Chaehyun breaks away and sprints forward. The sudden move leaves her completely paralyzed. She screams his name as the boy charges straight into a shadow that is clearly not here to save anyone. The kid takes the villain's hand like it's a holy relic. For Hyul, this man is a walking nightmare, but her brother is just a massive fan, treating the dark glove like a prize. The sheer absurdity of the moment leaves her completely frozen. While Chaehyun practically worships the city's biggest threat, she realizes the truth. They actually survived. Down in the underground hideout, the reality of their new arrangement finally settles in. She thought she was handing her brother over to a monster, but instead, they just got adopted. The boss plays the welcoming host, introducing the siblings to the rest of the crew. One of the staff members immediately makes a weird comment about Hyul being a beauty, earning some quick judgment from Seo-yoon. Pushing through her nerves, Hyul officially introduces herself and Chaehyun, letting Seo-yoon piece it together instantly. This hyperactive little kid is their new hacker. She quietly runs the math on what a dedicated healer actually brings to the table. Back at the apartment, the heavy atmosphere finally evaporates. Dane heads for the kitchen singing about mango juice, leaving Chaehyun to marvel at the sheer luxury of a normal afternoon. From the couch, Seo-yoon studies the new girl. The kid is quietly spinning out under the pressure of the unfamiliar space, and the panic is painfully familiar. It's the exact same way Seo-yoon felt the first day she met Dane. Her nostalgia breaks the second she spots him tipping a plastic bottle back. She immediately snaps at him for drinking straight from the rim, making him choke and spray the juice across the counter. He quickly stammers out a defense, pointing out that this specific bottle is his and her personal stash is perfectly safe in the fridge. The simple logic instantly kills her momentum, forcing her to awkwardly tell him to just be careful next time. Beside them, the associate slides a plate of cut fruit onto the table, easily ignoring the bickering while Chaehyun lights up at the snack. The meal is supposed to be a quiet break, but the silence is eating Hyul alive. She tries to pull her brother's attention, only to swallow the words the second he happily looks up. Diane decides they've delayed this long enough, asking his two associates to clear the room so they can have an actual conversation. Seoin immediately mocks the serious tone, forcing him to abandon the polite act and yell at them to go wait in the main house. With the kitchen finally empty, Diane turns his focus back to the young girl. There is no gentle way to drag a secret like this into the light, so he just drops it flat on the table. He knows she killed the orphanage director before running away. All the air leaves the room. She thought she buried that completely, and now a total stranger is holding it right in front of her. Diane doesn't bother with small talk. He tells the kids straight out that he knows the director had been abusing them the whole time. He didn't just stumble across them by accident. He tracked them down with a single purpose in mind, giving them an actual shot at a happy life. Hyul freezes, completely caught off guard by the offer. Of course, Diane doesn't mean staying in this gloomy basement. He explains he set up a portal to his main house, where they can live and go to school like normal kids. But trust doesn't come that easily to a girl who's spent her life surviving. She slams her hands on the table, demanding to know why a stranger would do all this for people he just met. Dane deflects with a convenient excuse about once having a younger sibling their age, remembering the wild tantrums that used to drive him crazy. That's all it takes to win over little Chaehyun. He immediately starts fanboying over Dane's combat videos, leaving our MC to quietly wonder if those bloody fights are really meant for elementary schoolers. With the boy already sold, Dane gently suggests they just try living with him for a while. Hyul stays quiet, searching his eyes for the cat she knows has to be there. Dane flashes an easy smile and promises the kids that his group really isn't as bad as they seem. The pitch works perfectly on Chaehyun, who practically vibrates with excitement, but his older sister just locks her arms tighter around him. She isn't buying a single word of it. Dane knows better than to push his luck, so he simply turns and leads them down the dim corridor. A high-tech door slides open at the end of the hall. This is where they finally see exactly what kind of place they've stumbled into. Dane gives the order to follow him, stepping straight through the portal and leaving Hyul and her younger brother alone at the edge. She stalls, her gut telling her this is a terrible idea. But Chaehyun doesn't share her caution, leaping blindly into the vortex before she can pull him back. She drops her hand. There is no turning back now. If her brother is going in, she has to follow. The jump spits her out onto a dim stairwell, and the quiet space on the other side is nothing like what she expected. Dane watches the kid run loose in the massive living room, asking how they like the new setup. He lays out the arrangement. He takes the top floor, and they get 2 rooms on the second. Then he drops the promise that actually freezes her. He offers to cover her tuition, tossing out a casual reminder that he has plenty of cash to back it up. He knows she expects a catch, so he gives her a clean exit, offering her a few days to think it over and the absolute right to walk away. Hayul is completely shook, overwhelmed by the sudden safety of it all. But survival habits die hard, and she can't quite drop her guard. What do you do when a stranger hands you everything you've been fighting for? Meanwhile, a very different kind of meeting is underway across the city, as a scarred thug yanks his hostage by the hair while Agostic's voice announces the day's brutal new theme. The standoff in the dark is deadly serious, with a life literally hanging by a thread. But miles away from that mess, Chae-yoon sprints through a sunlit courtyard, completely untouched by the violence. Inside the massive estate, Hayul finally caves, and Diane plays the perfect, reassuring host as he welcomes her in. The moment her guard drops, his private calculation takes over. He just secured a dedicated healer for his team, and he knows exactly how much that changes his odds. The mental victory lap stalls out when a sudden nagging thought catches up with him. He definitely left something out. Somewhere out in the night, Diane casually tries to pull a forgotten detail to the front of his mind, completely unaware of the mess he left behind. Meanwhile, Stardust is locked in her dark room, watching the hero boards absolutely melt down over his absence. It's been 4 straight days without a sighting, and the internet is legitimately begging the villain to return, with half the commenters suddenly crowning him a hero. She stares at the monitor, asking the empty room what he could possibly be doing out there. She just can't let it go. The man is a registered terrorist, yet he's currently living rent-free in her head, and this total radio silence is doing more damage to her focus than any of his actual attacks.